Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
I'm so confused. Now we're going. Now we're cooking with grease, as they would. Now we're cooking with grease. Gas. Now we're cooking with grease.
I prefer to cook with grease.
I only cook with grease. My God. Oh my God. Shit. Do you know what I find bizarre? That Jordan Peele can't make a movie without fucking imagery in it, and he can't make a movie without symbol.
Without imagery.
Jordan
what are
Peele
you doing?
Can't make straightforward movies.
You're putting this visual medium to the task.
I know, right? God. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on this episode of the Culture Cast X Wake Up Heavy, because Mark Begley's here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about, as we tend to do, 3 movies. And if you notice the name of this episode, you know what we're going to be talking about because he's only done 3 movies. We're going to be talking about the first 3 films from one Mr. Jordan Peele, one half of Key and Peele, though I guess anymore, that's not a thing that anybody cares about. But we're going to be talking about Get Out, Us, and Nope. And I'm joined by my good friend, as I have mentioned, my good friend and yours, all the way from the Wake Up Heavy podcast, Mr. Mark Begley.
Hello, Chris. It's so lovely to be here today.
Would you have voted for Obama for a 3rd term?
Best president of my lifetime.
God, that would be Ronald Reagan. Those economics are still trickling down as we speak.
Trickling down the crack of my ass.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the quote of the night. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Jordan Peele's 3 films, Get Out, Nope, and Us. Not in that order, though. Mm-hmm. So let's get right to it with Get Out.
You got your toothbrush?
Check.
Do you have your deodorant?
Check.
Do you have your cozy clothes?
Got that.
What?
Do they know I'm black?
Should they?
You might wanna,
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend. I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black man.
I ain't never seen you like this before, bro.
Meeting families and taking road trips. Don't come back all bougie, man.
Come back, get your damn pants up to your damn stomach.
So you guys coming up from the city?
Yeah, we're just heading up for the weekend.
Can I see your license, please?
He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving. I asked to see his ID.
Call me Dean and you hug me, my man.
So how long has this been going on, this thing? We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go.
Do you smoke in front of my daughter?
I'm gonna quit.
She'd take care of that for you.
How?
Hypnosis.
I'm good, actually.
You ready for this?
I'm back in the beat.
So look, I go do my research. Apparently, a whole bunch of brothers been missing in this suburb.
But it's cool.
Bro, how you not scared of this, man?
Good to see another brother around here.
Chris was just telling me how he felt much more comfortable with my being here. Get out.
Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
Rose, we gotta go.
Is everything okay?
Rose, just get the keys.
I don't know where they are.
Rose?
Sink into the...
Wait.
Sink.
Mom, it's a terrible thing to waste. Terrible thing to waste.
If there's too many white people, I get nervous.
No.
No.
Mom, it's a terrible thing to waste.
Get Out came out in 2017. It is, which like feels like a lifetime ago.
I actually, yeah.
It's been out for 5 years.
The reason that seems so weird to me is when I think of 2016 and the previous guys, the beginning of his term, that seems like nothing good happened during that time. But it's just weird to me that that actually happened, a couple of years after 2016.
Yeah. But the film stars Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford, Caleb Landry Jones, Stephen Root, and Catherine Keener. It's written by Jordan Peele. It's produced by your friend and mine. He could do no wrong at the time. Not so much anymore. One, Mr. Jason Blum. And the film is all about Daniel Kaluuya playing Chris Washington, a black photographer who goes on a weekend outing to his white girlfriend's home in rural upstate New York.
Yeah.
And he finds out that things aren't as they seem. We'll be talking spoilers, but before we talk about the movie, go watch this. Go watch all 3 movies, I think.
Go watch all 3, definitely.
We're going to be talking spoilers on all 3, though. Just fair warning here. So, Mark, tell me a little bit about why we're talking about all 3 movies, but more specifically, why Get Out as well.
Well, all 3 because Nope became available on VOD late last month or early this month, and so my wife was like, "Oh, we need to watch that," and I'm like, "Well, it's not out yet. It's still in the theaters. It's not out on VOD." I said, "As soon as it is, we'll watch it." And when it popped up, we're like, "Okay, Friday night." When it popped up on VOD,
wink, wink.
We watched it, and I'm like, "Okay, well, we might as well watch the other ones," because before, when my wife and I had watched Get Out and Us, my daughter was still too young, still kind of a scaredy cat when it came to horror movies. But she watched Nope with us, obviously. And then I'm like, well, let's watch the other ones. And we did. Each succeeding weekend, we watched, kind of went in reverse order. We watched Nope and then Us and then Get Out. And I thought, well, I might as well talk about them.
And it's 3 movies, which is kind of our thing. That seems to, we're just going through movies super fast. We'll have nothing to talk about here pretty quick. What are we going to do, Beckley?
There's all kinds of trilogies out there.
There sure are. But and I guess before we kind of get into Get Out, this 3 set of films I would consider to be very tonally the same.
Yeah,
exploring similar topics, similar themes.
And they're
frankly, they could exist all in the same universe for all I know.
That's true. Yeah. They're all high concept. The
3rd one puts concept and high to task in a way that I was not expecting. But yes, all 3 of them are very high concept. And I think, can we just say this here? I think Jordan Peele kind of seeming to be a high concept kind of guy.
Yeah,
but I think any one of us at this point, yourself or myself, I appreciate that about him, because if I were making something, the things that I've worked on and approached and started on script wise have been high concept, because I think anymore, like, that's the final frontier of filmmaking, is really just like making whatever and not being bound by genre sensibilities, which I think, at least with the one of the movies we're going to talk about, seems to be everybody's big stumbling block with it.
Well, and I think for him, it's that looking for an original idea, or not necessarily looking for one, but having an original idea that necessitates that high concept, because high concept things can be problematic. When when I think of high concept, I always go back to Lost and how when that played out over all those seasons, and then for a lot of people, and I include myself in this, failed at the end. It's sometimes that high concept can get you locked into things that you can't really work out of successfully and become a stumbling block. And I would say to a certain degree, in a couple of these films, that sort of bears out, where once you start thinking about it, if you start tugging at a thread, your sweater is going to just totally unspool at your feet. It's best not to do that, especially while you're sitting, in the middle of watching the movie. But they can lead to that where you're going, well, how does that work? How would that work? How would just, they're interesting concepts. They're covered, I think, for the most part with the exposition in the films. But if you start really digging deep, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But again, that's kind of like a Twilight Zone episode, which I sort of feel like you were getting at with, the high concept thing with him bringing back the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. High concept entertainment almost at its core, one might say. And boy, side tangent. Oh my God, that Twilight Zone is atrocious. Do not watch it. It's not great. It's so topical that the long-standing value of it will be zero. Like, you're making an episode about 2016's president and all that. Like, I don't want to revisit that. I don't need to see entertainment about that. I lived it. And I don't think people in the future are going to return to the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone. They'll return to...
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show, and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice, and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
The original one. I'm sorry. And I would say almost universally throughout the reboots of all the Twilight Zones, the original show did it better. There are a couple good episodes from each of the previous or further iterations of the show, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the 1985 show has a lot worth watching, because it doesn't. And the 2001 with Forrest Whitaker, which I've seen all of, has a couple good episodes, but it's not worth watching in its entirety. And Jordan Peele's one is just a mess. A mess. Yeah. It's really not great.
That's what I heard, and it came out on Paramount Plus, right? Which we didn't have at the time. We have it now, so I could watch it. But I had heard about the disappointment from most people on it and just never took the chance. I totally forgot about the 2000s one, to be honest. I watched most of the 85 one because I was like 16.
Right.
And it's horror adjacent, so that was sort of my thing. And I remembered enjoying them to a certain degree back then, but haven't returned to it.
But to your point, I mean, we have this director, Jordan Peele, writer, director, really, who, this movie becomes his calling card. And this movie guarantees him first looks with Universal. This guarantees him the job with Twilight Zone. So it's worth mentioning that this is the movie that puts him on the map. This movie is nominated for an Oscar. This movie is nominated for Best Performance by Daniel Kaluuya. This movie is taken seriously by the filmmaking cognoscenti, as it were, which is good because this is his best movie.
It's interesting to me because I was aware of him because of Key and Peele, but I've never watched a single episode of that show.
Which is too bad because it's really funny.
I've seen a lot of these skits just randomly. The Gremlins 2.
The Hingle McCringleberry. Have you seen the football one? The football one's pretty famous as well. The Hingle McCringleberry one. They have a lot of really good ones.
Everything I've seen has made me laugh pretty hard. I just sketch comedy for some reason has not interested me for a lot of years. But it's interesting to me to think, was that show that successful that he was given not carte blanche, let's say. I'm sure Get Out didn't cost a whole lot, but it's like, here, yeah, you have this interesting, kind of strange, maybe a little highfalutin idea for a horror movie. Go ahead and make it. I mean, he wrote the previous film was that thing with Keegan-Michael Key, Keanu, about a cat.
Yeah.
They have that. And I'm like,
talk about movies that I forgot.
Was that successful? That
no, that's so. What happened was Sean McKittrick met with Jordan Peele. Sean McKittrick has produced a fair amount of movies. Donnie Darko, Black Klansman, Hell Baby, World's Greatest Dad, Southland Tales. So he's a prolific producer.
Strange movies there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, Get Out's a kind of a weird movie too, right?
Yeah.
But Keegan-Michael Key introduced Sean McKittrick to Jordan Peele, and Jordan Peele pitched him the idea of Get Out, and he was like, I'm going to pay you to write this movie.
That's awesome.
And you know what? If I had been sitting across from Jordan Peele and he had pitched this movie to me, I would have figured out ways to make money or given him money to do it too, because as kind of rote as this movie may seem now in 2022, it was mind-blowing in 2017. And it was like really, topical is not the word. It was, and it still is, but there's more to it than that. It speaks to an experience that a large percentage of people in this country have, that a large percentage of people in this country do not and will never have, and have a hard time understanding. And I'm not saying that this movie is the cure-all for that, but this movie does a lot to give you as an audience member an idea of what that could feel like should you feel it.
Well, and it also it covers two experiences, because you can and I can relate to her family in many ways. The microaggressions, the stuff that the dad does, the progressive dad with the my man. And, like she explains to him when they're up in the bedroom, like, I don't know what my dad is doing with that my man thing. He's probably never said that before in his life. And now it's just coming out of his mouth, right and left.
Right.
So that stuff is interesting as a white person to go like, oh, yeah, I recognize that. I've had friends or family members act like that. I understand that as well. And feel uncomfortable about it, as you should. And then you can sort of we can never fully understand the experience of the Chris character. Like, you and me can't fully understand that.
Right.
But you see how he reacts to it throughout. It's pretty much just like tries to let it roll off his back. And so you can see that too. If you have friends that are people of color, and how, this situation might have made them feel awkward. Why didn't they say anything? Or stuff like that. It's just that dynamic. It's not underplayed, but it's just running through the film. Nothing is like in your face about it, but it's all very insidious throughout. And I really appreciate that. It's that low key, like I said, microaggressions, of course, macroaggressions at the end. But
the end of the movie, look, the movie goes off the rails because it's a movie and it has to, right? And it's a horror movie and it's a high concept movie. There is a movie in here where there is no, like Lil Ray Howery says it, black sex slaves. There is a movie without that, where it's just, guess who's coming to dinner? And that's all it is.
Right,
and that is what that movie is, right? In a lot of ways. But that's what I love about this movie, is it goes, guess who's coming to dinner? But let's make it a fucking nightmare. Like, let's make it a literal nightmare for everybody involved. And, it's that taking of the dial and turning it just a little bit.
Yeah.
And that is what I think is going to be, at least in the first movie we talk about, and the last one, maybe not so much the second one, but the first and last one, definitely a dial shifting, a saying, this is what you're used to. This is what I'm going to show you instead. And it's giving you, like you said, a base of which you are comfortable with, but then putting you out of your element almost immediately, but still within the same confines of what you're expecting. Because look, this movie is the Stepford Wives in a lot of ways, right? In a lot of ways.
Or, yeah, I was going to use another Ira Levin example with Rosemary's Baby, where, and this is true of the Stepford Wives, where the protagonist thinks one thing is going on, and it is that sex slave. The Lil Rel Howard is saying that comedically, but the idea is that these white people in upstate New York are kidnapping Black people to make them into slaves. That's what you're getting from the start of the movie. And once he finally meets the Andre Hayworth character at the party, at the white people party, then he starts thinking that as well. Like, oh, yeah, that's what they're doing. That's why they have a maid, a Black maid. That's why they have a Black groundskeeper. And so as an audience member, if you hadn't already pretty much had it spoiled like I had before you saw it, that's what you're expecting is the hypnosis, and all of that is leading up to him being turned into somebody else's slave, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's what he thinks is going on.
Slave of the mind.
Slave, and just, like they talk about, Bradley Whitford says, I know how it looks, white family with Black servants. So I think his expectation is, oh, they're going to turn me into somebody's husband or somebody's groundskeeper or something like that. And I'm going to be hypnotized so that I don't try to run away.
So I have a question. I have a question for you that my wife kind of posited to me, and I was wondering this myself, and I kind of had an answer. Do you actually think that when there's not someone at the house that they're trying to kidnap and force into slavery, I don't think that they're groundskeepers and maids. What sense would that make?
Yeah, when people aren't there.
Because my wife was like, why would they be like that when nobody's there? And I was like, I don't think that they are. My internal logic was like, they're just walking around because, again, for all intents and purposes, that's the grandfather and the grandmother, which I want to point something out. This is a perfect movie for me in a lot of ways. Aside from 3 lines of dialogue, 2 lines of dialogue and one action by a character. Allison Williams saying grandma, Allison Williams saying go get him grandpa, and then the character who is the groundskeeper / grandfather, she sees him get flashed. She still hands him the gun, even though she knows what happens, and she lets herself get shot. Outside of those 3 instances, which happen in about the span of 5 minutes at the end of the movie, this is a perfect movie because everything that is done to give away the story before they give it away whole cloth is done. Masterfully is not even a strong enough word. Watching this movie, every time you watch it, you will get something different from it. You will see something different or see something that Jordan Peele put there intentionally for you to pick up on. He and Alex Garland, man, are just...
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of The Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Killing it with utilizing the film language, the literary aspects of the film language in an interesting way, using themes, using iconography, using double plays with words and innuendos and doublespeak with lines of dialogue. Nobody else is doing it as good as Jordan Peele and Alex Garland are right now, at least in more mainstream contemporary filmmaking that's palatable for a larger audience. I mean, the whole thing with there's black mold in the basement, or we kept a piece of grandma in here. Like, if you know what he means, when he means it, it's amazing. But the first time you watch it, it's like, you don't think anything of it.
I just picked up today on the grandma line. I'm like, oh, duh.
We keep a piece of her in here. Like, and then whoop, there she is. Yeah.
And I never, and I feel stupid for not realizing this, never caught on to the connection between grandpa and the creepy running thing he does at night. And I'm like, well, shit, duh. He just explains
Yeah.
His whole backstory is that he was an amazing racer and got beat out by Jesse Owens.
He almost got over it. I love that line. He almost got over it. It's such an amazing line. He almost got over it.
So now he might beat Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
Because he's in a superior black body.
Yeah. And another thing that I picked up on, I think it was probably the second or third time I watched it, is when they get pulled over, Allison Williams doesn't want him to hand his ID over. Not for the altruistic reasons you think, but primarily because then there's a paper trail of him having been pulled over.
Yeah.
And it's just like all of these little tiny things that once you watch, this is really one of these movies you have to watch twice, at least 3 or 4 times, probably even more so, just to pick up on the amount of care that Jordan Peele puts into the writing of the script. Is really like impressive. Like there are very few directors who do that anymore. Or there are very few writers who that make it into the movie, frankly. I mean, they made it into the movie because Jordan Peele directed it.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking when I was watching Nope for the second time, was like, none of this stuff is getting explained to me expositionally. And I appreciate that was the same thing that I appreciated about Men. You know, you brought up Alex Garland, and it was like, oh yeah, there's this, there's that, there's this. Okay. And it did take a second viewing, and I'm sure. So I've watched Us and Get Out 3 times now. 2 pretty, well, I probably watched Get Out more than that, I should say, but 2 pretty recently, with twice in the last month. I've watched all 3 of these twice in the last month, and you definitely get something each successive time. But back to your question about the grandparents, I think I remember asking myself that after the first time I watched it, like, well,
why would they be standing around? Yeah, like why would they be their servants? They wouldn't be. Yeah.
No, they hang out there at home as the grandparents, and then they have to act like servants when they're bringing somebody home to.
I think it's a counterpoint to that scene. And again, there are a couple. I mean, again, I say 3 things that make this not a perfect movie, but like still like 3 things. It's pretty much still a perfect movie. There are some scenes in this movie that I feel like were added in for the benefit of the audience and not for the benefit of the narrative. Like when Daniel Kaluuya goes upstairs and you see him going up the stairs during the party, and then everybody stops and looks up and is quiet. Like, I didn't need that scene. I knew that's what was happening. You know what I mean? Like, that's my assumption. Like, there are some things in this movie that feel like they were added because of studio notes, because they're like, we want you to make sure that the audience understands, like the grandpa and the grandma line. Though I hope those weren't in the original script, because those feel so ham-fisted. Like, I think you've given me enough for me to understand that's
right.
What happened. Like, if you don't get that by that point in the movie, like, it's your fault, not the movie's fault, because the movie is being subtle about it, but it's ramping up. It's going away from subtlety and it's ramping up. And I just don't like, get him, grandpa. Like, I literally cringe every time she says it because it's just so over the head. It's like, I get it.
I think probably a lot of people would not get it. It probably would have taken me a couple times to understand that it was grandma and grandpa, not just. I mean, it makes sense that it's them because they're at their house, but like the other guy, the Andre Hayworth character who gets turned into somebody's husband, or the husband gets turned into him, or however you want to look at it. It's like they're not just doing it for their own family members; they're doing it for other people. Surprised there weren't a couple more black people at that party.
They're probably, again, I'm with you, but I feel like that would have been too much.
It would have been hard to,
less believable, right?
Explain why, why
are all these old white people with all these young African-American characters? Like, look, I think you would agree that the party scene is obviously like a huge part of this movie, and it's like 20 minutes of the movie. It feels like it goes on forever, the party scene, because you have everybody showing up, and then you have everybody meeting him, and then you have Daniel Kaluuya and Stephen Root's great scene. God, Stephen Root, man, just like in this movie for 2 scenes, pretty much steals it though. And then you have the whole auction thing, and then he goes back, and it's a long scene. But man, it's just full of so much going on. Like, oh, I'm going to introduce you to these other people, and then this Asian guy is going to ask you this question, and then you've already been harassed by these people, and your phone keeps getting unplugged. Yeah, it's
like a horse.
Yeah, there's a lot. this movie's a lot. There's a lot going on. It's asking a lot of you as an audience. I think also it's asking you to kind of, like you said, get on board with the high concept nature of it, because there are things that would easily make sense. Like for them to just like, the cops wouldn't react that way. I have a hard time with that in the movie. The way the cops react to Lil Ray Howery when he comes to the police. It's like unbelievably bullshit. Like, here's a picture of this guy. This guy disappeared.
Right. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It should have just been, look up Andre Hayworth. Is this not the same guy that's on my fucking phone?
Right.
So he's there. You have a missing person case. Somebody's reported this man is missing, and it's all over the internet.
6 months. 6 months.
And I have a picture of him. So he's here in this town. You need to investigate. That's all he needed to do. That scene is very frustrating to me.
It feels like it's from another movie, like a movie that's not as well written as this one, right? It feels like it's from some like Jim Carrey movie or something.
Yeah. You know they're not going to believe him. It would have just been, I mean, that's sort of a different movie, though, getting the cops involved. Then you kind of have to ride around.
But they don't believe him because of what he says. That's the problem. It's not because of what's happening. They don't believe him because he goes, they're sex slaves.
Right. Which is part of the frustrating thing is just get to the point. There's a man that's missing. I have a picture of him from this party. So take care of it. He needs to end up on his own. So that's how we get there.
Well, with this iteration of the movie, that's what happens. I might be one of those people who thinks that the alternate ending for this movie should have been the real ending. The alternate ending of the cops do show up and he does go to jail. Like, I appreciate that the audience is, I mean, if you go and do any research about this movie, you'll find out that the alternate ending was the actual original ending for the movie. But the audience liked Daniel Kaluuya so much because he's a fucking charismatic actor that, surprise, surprise, they didn't want to see him die at the end or go to jail or be put in any. And you know what? I'm sorry, but this is going to sound really terrible, but I'm sick and tired of the Western audience's opinion on shit like that, because it's just, everything doesn't need to be all happy fucking sunflowers and rainbows, especially the horror genre. Of all the genres, this is the one where you can get away with it and no one's going to bat an eye.
It might have just been a little too heavy for that time period.
It's going to be heavy for any time period. If this movie had come out today, it would still be heavy.
Right. But I'm very happy that every time that door opens and it says airport, and I know it's
that's fair.
Whatever his name is in the movie, whatever his friend, Rod. And it because I don't want that cop from earlier in the movie showing up there.
Oh no, I want it to be two different cops, two completely different cops. Then it doesn't even matter. Like, if you're the cop and you come upon him strangling her, like, no matter what he says, you know. But here's the thing. You know what the problem with that is? That ending would be unbelievable in and of itself, because the house is going to burn down, but there's still going to be proof of all this bad shit going on. So you're telling me that he lives in such an unjust world that they couldn't figure out what was going on for themselves? Because guess what? That guy's still missing. Andre Hayworth is still missing.
Right. Well, hopefully they get that sorted out.
But see, that's the thing.
After the movie ends.
Because in the ending where he's in prison, it makes it seem like the cops were hyper inept and never went and looked into it.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's
you know what? Actually, the ending that might have worked the best was the third proposed ending that they never shot, which was Chris becoming a sex slave. And like Lil Ray Howery going into a gated community, going into a house and seeing him and saying, "Hey, Chris," and, you know, I don't know who you're looking for. That might have actually been the most horror-y ending.
Yeah.
And that's probably the end. Realistically, that's kind of the ending the movie probably deserves, in a way, to pay homage to the film.
That's the Stepford Wives ending.
Right. To pay homage to the movie that Jordan Peele admitted is the inspiration for this movie, which is the Stepford Wives. I think that's the ending the movie kind of deserves.
I still really like that he gets out of there with Rod. I understand.
I mean, I like the ending the way it is now because it is positive. Like, don't get me wrong. I still like seeing a character not get completely demolished by the forces of evil.
And there is something to the point of, let's stop showing Black trauma. I mean,
I agree.
I'm not, I again can't even comprehend the daily feeling that generates. But just from watching movies where that is a topic, it's rough, man. It's like hard to watch that constantly. So I'm happy that he gets out of there. But see, again, I always assumed that it would have, regardless of what the proposed alternate endings are, when I see those flashing lights and hear the siren, I assume it's the cop from the beginning and he's fucked because he already dealt with this guy. So, whether it was other cops or the cops that Lil Rel's talking to or whatever, in my head, it's going back to, it's the Chekhov's cop. That's the same dude that we saw earlier. He already had an incident with this guy. He's not gonna fuck around this time. He's gonna get that ID. Yeah. And so much more. So
yeah. Well, again, I mean, I'm with you. As much as I always say, I think I probably said it when we did the original episode on the show when the movie came out. Like, I wish that they had gone with the alternate ending. I agree. Yeah, it's probably best to not keep piling on, but it's a horror movie.
Right.
And it's a horror movie being directed by someone who understands horror movies. And as well as I do, what genre has happy endings? Not horror. Horror genre is not even when, see, that's the thing. He gets a happy ending, full stop. There's no, this is a weird horror movie because in a lot of horror movies, there's the little coda. There's a little stinger. There's something. In Us, there's a stinger, for fuck's sake. I mean, that movie is almost predicated on the stinger existing. And nope, not so much. But this movie, like, it doesn't have that, which is in and of itself kind of surprising because you would expect, how about the fourth alternate ending here? Let's go one further. Chris finds, Lil Rel, however, he finds Chris, takes him back, but the surgery had happened. He just doesn't realize it.
See, those two, that ending and finding him as a sex slave, work for me as horror movie endings. Right. It's the twist. It's the Stepford Wives thing. It's or the Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing where shit. Donald Sutherland is one of them. Fuck.
Best tried as best as you could, but you couldn't stop it.
It's a downer, but it's that horror movie downer. It's not real life downer. I don't want to see the real life downer.
You can't escape the forces of evil in the two alternate endings we're talking about. The real life evil is the cops putting him in jail.
Yeah.
But again, like, at the same time, that's this whole movie is the intersection of real life horror and horror movie horror, which is why that ending would kind of make sense because his real life has to be affected by the fictitious horror. I know it's the hard ending to swallow. And in a lot of ways, it's the ending that nobody wants for this movie, but you can watch that alternate ending and it hits like a fucking Mack truck because you see him and he's just like, what can I do? There's nothing that I can do. And I appreciate the hopelessness of that ending because yes, it does strike on chords of real life things that all of us have been seeing, but it's kind of the ending the movie deserved. It's not the ending that people wanted though, which I appreciate. And that's part of the viewership experience in watching movies.
If I had been in that test audience, I would have said, nope.
Yeah,
I don't want to see that.
Probably would have too. It's because we have the positive ending that we can talk about the alternate ending. And you know what? I wonder if Jordan Peele, when he was told, hey, we need to change the ending to give Chris kind of the out. I wonder if Jordan Peele wasn't like, oh, thank God. Thank you for giving me that, because again, I can't help but wonder if he kind of fell in love with the character of Chris or if he just saw him as a means to an end to tell a story. Because in a lot of ways, we learn a lot about Chris as a character, but he's also kind of a cipher in a way.
Oh, yeah.
We know things because they're pulled out of him, not because he's offering them up willingly, which again is very much a very on point thing for what this movie's going for. So I love.
He's not a sharer. He doesn't share a whole bunch.
Nor should he want to be. Given the climate of everything, then and now.
And the things that people are asking him to share are ridiculous.
Yeah. And really, I think that the main villain of the movie really is Catherine Keener, more than anybody else. She feels the most dastardly of all of them.
Oh, absolutely. When you get to the end, when he's confronting her in her office, it becomes very clear that in his mind, Oh no, this is the mastermind.
Yeah.
It might be his family, the husband's, Bradley Whitford's character's family, dad, and doing this procedure. Behold the coagula.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a visual medium, but Mark Begley's reaction to the order of the coagula was perfect.
I don't like that word.
Coagula. Yeah.
But the look in her face and the look in his face, it's like, I'm surprised his killing. It doesn't even seem like he kills her, really. Slashes her across the face and she drops. It seems like he would have taken more time with her because she's the one that got into his fucking head.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that he didn't want. That's the thing he was warned about. And he let it happen. And because of her, this other stuff can happen. They can go through with this procedure.
That's almost the only reason it can happen is because she is able to tenderize the mind, as it were, to make it more willing to accept someone else's brain. So their brain is being put into kind of your brain stem.
Part of their brain, yeah. That's when it starts to like get.
It's a little.
Nobody can do this.
It becomes a little higgledy-piggledy. It becomes a little high concept. It becomes a little kind of dorky. I'm gonna take part of your brain now and put that brain in, and that just it works. It's like, sure, okay,
trust me, it works.
Yeah, like fine. I you know what? By the end of the movie, I'm on board with it. I think that they hang less of a lantern on it than they do in stuff like Us, and definitely in Nope, but for sure in Us.
Right.
And so it gets in the way of the narrative less, I think. In this movie, it's like, okay, it's like 2 minutes. And then you get the little video with Richard Hurd and, the family and whatnot. And then you have Stephen Root come in and it's like, we can talk and I can kind of talk to you about what's going on. But like, I'm glad.
It helps the process.
I'm glad that's all that's all it was, because it leaves it up in the air more for me to ask questions, and I don't need those answers. And the movie doesn't need to give me the answers. I'm like, how specifically does this work? And what exactly are you doing? It's like, I don't give a shit, and the movie doesn't need to tell me.
No, the more you get into it, the more those threads start to unwind.
The more you get into it, the stupider it gets, is really just the meanest way of putting it.
Don't think about the means too much.
Don't think too hard. Otherwise, you might fall over backwards from holding your breath, trying to figure out what frame of mind they put themselves in to say, well, we'll take the brain and we'll cut it open. It's like, whatever, fine. I believe you. There's one guy walking around who that clearly happened to already, so it must work. 3 people, I guess.
3 people, yeah, at least.
Yeah.
That we see. 3 people that we see.
But there's got to be like 5 or 6 more at least. Plus, they mentioned kind of offhand that the son is also going and doing it. So,
well, I mean, there were a lot of pictures in her little keepsake box,
but she didn't. but Allison Williams wasn't the one who got Lakeith Stanfield. He was which. You know what?
Just kidnappings at that point.
And I appreciate the whole suit of armor thing. There were some. Did you remember watching the preview for this movie? And there was some stuff that did not make it into the final film. There's like a skull of like a deer or something that he sees at one point. And then it feels like the whole armor thing was meant to be more of a thing.
It's been so long.
It's on the poster, at least. The whole suit of armor thing's on the poster, which is in one scene of this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
And you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah.
You remember isn't there like a character in that movie that's like just like a suit of armor?
I think so. It's been a while since I watched that.
It's a good one. How good is Allison Williams though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the real twist of the movie for me, was that she was in on it. I mean, I don't know how she wouldn't be, but I mean, Jordan Peele talks about why he cast her, because she is, she was from Girls and she played Peter Pan. It works. It 100% got me. I genuinely was surprised the first time I watched this movie that she was in on it. Cause like you could believe realistically she wouldn't be, because she doesn't live at home like the brother does.
Yeah. Not until she holds those keys up. I mean, honestly, you don't get an indication from her performance while they're interacting with each other, while she's interacting with her family. You do not get the sense that she knows something is up at the house. You don't get, and I don't think it's a matter of, maybe she didn't know that her character was in on it. You know, like maybe she didn't get the last part of the script until the end of the shoot, where as a human person, she had that in the back of her head the whole time. I don't think that's it. I just think it's a solid performance of play this as if you're on his side the whole time and don't have any idea that your family is doing this fucked up shit.
Yeah. And what I think the other smart thing on Jordan Peele's part is putting the moment where he finds the pictures right before the twist. Yes. Because again, if it had been, during the party scene, he finds the pictures and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to grill her about it. Because he doesn't even grill her about it. He finds him, he looks at him, he goes, puts him back. And then she's right there. Let's leave. And it's that scene. I mean, the thing I forget about this movie is how quick this movie goes after the party. It's like there's the party. It's the evening of the party when everything happens.
Right.
There is no more time.
Yeah. You just get a little bit of that. That always surprises me too. Like, wait, we still have a pretty good chunk of movie left, but I know that this happens after the auction.
Yeah.
Once all those people leave, shit's going down. There's nothing in between there.
There's no waiting. There's nothing else to wait for.
There's not another awkward family dinner or
right.
You know, oh man, it's so satisfying when he finally squashes Caleb Landry Jones's head, because that motherfucker, man, in this movie,
my God,
he is the king of playing creeps.
I love Caleb Landry Jones, though. He's great, right?
Oh yeah, he's great. But man, when he plays a creep, it's like him in Twin Peaks: The Return. Fuck. And in this movie, like they both came out around the same time.
Trying to think, he's in something else, and I was thinking the same thing. Like this, he's just like it was an Antiviral. That's what it was.
He is good at playing
weird people because he's a weird looking dude. Like
he is a weird way, and he talks weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Whatever that delivery he's doing is, he reminds me a lot of Evan Peters. Like, it's just that, like, you're kind of a unique looking individual. And you know what? To be a character actor, that's a good thing. Or actually, you know what else who he reminds me of? Jamie Campbell Bowers.
Who is that? That name sounds
Vecna from Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah. Well, when he talks in this movie, you know who he reminds me of? James Gumb in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah.
That's something about that weird, like, back in your throat voice. And it's like, are you a hair lip or what's the deal?
He's just weird.
Yeah, he is weird.
They're all racist. That's what it is. But they're not racist, I guess. Probably by their own admission, they're not racist.
It's the thing, though, with him at least, because his character comes back where when I'm watching a movie, especially with my kid, I'm like, man, you gotta fucking take him out.
Kill him for good,
you have to make sure that first time. If Halloween has not taught you anything, it has to teach you, you kill them, you don't drop the knife until you're 100% sure that they're dead.
If Broken Lizard's Club Dread has taught us anything, you have to kill them 8 times over and then tie them to a fucking post in the middle of the water with your boat.
Yeah, or cut their head off.
I mean, I thought that once Club Dread and all these other horror parodies made that joke, I would have thought that they would have stopped doing it. Like, really, right? Like, you would have thought, because that was the thing with Austin Powers and James Bond, right? Austin Powers changed the way that James Bond as a character operated because they took the ever-loving piss out of him with Austin Powers. I would have thought by now the horror genre would have had the piss taken out of it enough by the fake-out ending. Not like the stinger ending, but the fake-out of the killer being dead. It's so lazy. Even in this movie, it feels lazy because Daniel Kaluuya's character is so smart otherwise. He figures out how to save himself at the end. Nobody saves him. He saves himself.
Yeah.
But he lets his ass sit on the ground, like just bleeding. Like, fucking come on. You or I in that situation, smashing that guy's head until there's nothing left.
Right. The first time.
Yeah. Like,
no, we don't need a second go around with this chump.
No. Fuck no. Yeah, the climax of this movie is intense. I forgot how intense the end of this movie is because he's just fucking killing everybody. And you know what? It's like righteous killings too.
Oh yeah.
Catherine Keener fucking gets it. Bradley Whitford really fucking gets it with the deer, which in that scene just replaced deer with African Americans. And that's the way I read that scene because I think that's the way you're supposed to read that scene.
That's what I took from it. I was like,
it's awful. Okay. It's awful. He's terrible. They're all terrible. Like,
that's a good start. Whenever I see one on the side of the road, I say, that's a good start. And I'm like, I think he's talking about black people here.
And then he gets killed with the deer at the end of the movie, which in my mind just solidifies that's what Peele was going for.
Yeah. And he finally, he's been sort of passive the whole time. Like he doesn't, I think his intention, speaking of the deer, is to go and put it out of its misery, but he can't do that. So he ponders on it later that night and probably feels bad. And it sort of relates to his mom where he didn't do anything. So now he's finally doing something. And the deer, plays into that as well. But yeah, well, when you start taking, especially her family, when you start taking what they say and removing it from the context of the scene that it's in, a lot of it's really fucking gross.
Yeah, I mean, again, like that's why I love this movie so much. Is I've seen this movie 7 or 8 times now, and rewatching it for this, it doesn't feel like a slog. My wife, when we sat down to watch it, we started the movie, and I was like, I want to watch it because I haven't seen it in a while. And we started, and she's like, how could you forget any of this movie? And it was like, I haven't. I remember all the beats of this movie to a T, as I'm sure you do. Like that, this movie is a classic now in my mind. It's a genuine contemporary classic. I would watch this. I would put this movie up with Silence of the Lambs. It's that good. It's that well made. It's that well thought out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's part of why I brought this up as a possible topic beside the 3 movie thing. But when we watched Nope, I was like, well, shit, I really like his other 2 movies. 3 for 3 to varying degrees as far as I'm concerned, and all rewatchable.
Right.
And like you've mentioned, where you can peel back the layers each time a little more. And those are fun. And if the pacing's right, which I think it is, probably out of these 3 movies, the pacing is the best in this. I mean, it's also considerably shorter than the other 2, but yeah, it moves at a clip to where you're going, oh, we're here already. Oh, we're to the after auction part now. And this is basically the climax of the film. Jeez, it doesn't seem like I've been watching it for that long.
Right.
And yeah, so I agree. I mean, it is, I'm surprised I haven't watched it as much as I have. I'm surprised it's probably been 4 or 5 times now that I think about it too recently. But it was one of those movies where I'm like, okay, I need to go back and watch this because I think I missed a bunch of stuff. Like I missed those things about the grandma and grandpa being there, but being servants and, stuff like that where, yeah, are they servants when no one else is around? No, I hope not. That's weird.
Also, something I want to talk about, the fucking music in this movie is genuinely, look, the reoccurring theme of the Run Rabbit Run thing, and they've kind of incorporated it into the actual score with the Swahili, listen to your ancestors, which is what they keep saying over and over and over again, which could be interpreted as like fucking run. If you're feeling it, run, right. Man.
Yeah.
Like everything about this movie, aside from those literal 3 fucking things, feels like Jordan Peele somehow in his first directorial debut made just a classic horror movie in the vein of almost specifically, I think you would agree, 70s horror. This is him in like a 70s horror playground. He's not really going on 80s or 90s tropes at all. Maybe with like the addition of the brutality, because again, like the amount of gore and violence in this movie, maybe a little bit more than you might be used to in the 70s, but it depends on what horror movies of the 70s you're talking about, really. Something like The Stepford Wives is not a gory movie, right. But this is the Stepford Wives operating more contemporarily. So more contemporary space, I guess. And so, we're going to talk about Us and we'll talk about Nope and what worlds of horror that they're kind of in. But this is Jordan Peele's ode to Rosemary's Baby, Stepford Wives, paranoia horror movies of the 70s.
Yes. Yeah.
Told by an African-American director.
Right.
Who has a unique voice that he brought to this project in a way that it's Jordan Peele's. It is nobody else's project.
True. I agree.
You want to talk about Us?
Let's talk about us.
That's a classic right there.
Messing with that ain't no weed.
What does I got 5 on it mean? It's about drugs.
It's not about drugs. It's a dope song. Don't do drugs.
Get in rhythm. There you go. There you go.
Keep on in.
Can't believe how big they've got.
Did you hear Gabe got a boat?
He's kidding, right?
He's not kidding. Hey, I think it's vodka o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Where's Jason?
Jason?
Jason! Where were you? I didn't know if you were lost. Stick with me, and I'll keep you safe.
There's a family in our driveway.
It's probably the neighbors. But y'all scared of a family? Hi, can I help you?
Zora, put your shoes on.
If you want to get crazy, we can get crazy. What are you people?
It's us.
They look exactly like us. They think like us. They know where we are. We need to move and keep moving. They won't stop until they kill us. Or we kill them.
Be careful.
So the film was once again written and directed by Jordan Peele, produced by pretty much everybody who produced it the first time, because duh, why wouldn't you? If the previous movie was a $4.5 million film, it made almost $250 million. You're damn well sure I'd be fucking producing this movie. And this movie stars Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Elizabeth Moss, Tim Heidecker, and Shahadi Wright Joseph and Evan Alex at children actors that aren't annoying and obnoxious somehow. And the film is, well, what is the movie about? It's about Lupita Nyong'o, who plays Adelaide, a woman who has a secret that she doesn't know about. And that secret begins to rear its ugly head, but in the way of the tethered making their way to the above ground land that is the United States. I don't know how to describe this movie. A family deals with intruders at their lake house.
Perfect.
But to describe it as that is to, it's like it's calling Get Out. Chris goes to dinner with his white girlfriend's family.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, is it a home invasion movie?
I mean, that's
what you're getting at, right?
Right. That's the sandbox that it's playing in, to put it mildly.
That's my one. I wouldn't even really call it a complaint. I'm always surprised. I am surprised that the family shows up in the driveway as soon as they do.
Yeah.
Because I know that it's only about 32, 33 minutes into the film, and we have a good hour and a half more or close to that. I think these movies get longer as they go on.
Yeah. This one's almost 2 hours, and then Nope is like 2 hours plus.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking, wait, this happens so fast. What transpires after this? You know, of course, and then we have numerous scenes after that. But that always kind of like, oh shit, we're getting right to it, which I appreciate. And again, since I'm such a tight ass, I always see these movies well after they're released in theaters. And this was pre-pandemic, so this was a theater experience for most people. And I wait for movies to show up on streaming or whatever, get them a little faster these days. But that generally means like the twist has been spoiled, and or not even necessarily the twist, but I knew going into this that it was not a home invasion movie.
Right.
Which I'm happy about, because home invasion movies I watch a lot of them, but there's something inherent in them that drives me bonkers.
It's like summer camp movies for me. It's like they got to hit certain notes every time, and it's like I don't need that. Even the best ones like Straw Dogs or You're Next or the original Black Christmas, like they still have to hit the beats. And honestly, the beats came from those movies, at least something like Black Christmas. So, and
that's why Your Next works for me, because they actively worked against those tropes. And so I'm not frustrated when I just watched a movie everybody had been talking about, Shudder exclusive, called Speak No Evil. And it's sort of the reverse. It's not a home invasion movie. It's more of a people out of their element, but it's in a home and it's with people that, you know, are off-putting, and they attempt to leave multiple times and they don't. And that makes me fucking crazy, because I would never stay in a situation out of politeness where I feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And the whole time I'm just going, just fucking leave. Who cares what these people think?
Maybe, would you say to them, get out?
I would say, get out. You're coming with us. Nope.
Ayo.
But so that avoids this in this case. We're not like, why aren't you getting out? Why aren't you leaving? Why do you care what these people think? That ain't the situation here. So.
The home invasion part of us is like 20 minutes. I think,
and it's not the point.
Right. Well, I think for me, of the 3 Peele films, this is the weakest one. And I think it's because the high conceptness of the movie betrays the movie, because also the twist in this movie is so lame. I'm sorry. It's you know what the twist is going to be. They tell you in the first 10 minutes of the movie, this is what's happening. Okay, dear listener, you watch movies, right? Filmmakers make movies intentionally. They show you things intentionally. If he's showing you a character at the beginning, possibly swapping places with another character, there's intent behind it. And the intent was to sow discontent in your mind, and it makes sense when she isn't the character she claims to be at the end of the movie. They also show like a bunch of these flashbacks where it should be rather obvious what's going on. That again, I feel like this movie is like what would have happened to Get Out if the studio notes in Get Out had really gotten in the way of the movie. Because this movie feels like it has to bonk you over the head with what's going on all the time, to the point where they explain what's going on at the end of the movie. And in explaining it, they essentially explain nothing. They're like, well, this is what's happening. And this is what's, I was like, but what, who cares? Why? For what fucking purpose? Like, this seems uncharacteristically stupid, even for high concept.
I think, the concept gets in the way of this one a little bit more. I totally agree with that. And I remember that was a common complaint, where more so in this one, if you start tugging at threads, it's going to unravel because it's so vast. The conspiracy in this is so vast, it becomes ridiculous. And even this character, the main antagonists, her ability to conduct and construct this whole thing is ridiculous. Now, again, like I said, having these kinds of movies with twists and things sort of spoiled ahead of time, like I knew what the deal was with the tethered before I watched it. So,
but like, how could you not for just watching the movie though?
Well, see, that's the thing though. So knowing that, it's like I miss those not so subtle knocks on the head where, oh yeah, okay, I get it. This means that, to spoil it, and which we already said we're going to do, that the Lupita Nyong'o character, the mom in the film, is not the girl from the beginning of the movie.
She's the clone.
She's the replacement. She's the tethered. But if you already kind of know that, like I did, then I missed the obvious clues because I already knew what was happening. So I wasn't like trying to figure anything out. So when I watched it earlier this month with my family, I paid more attention to how did they lay all this out? How did they let the audience know? And you're right, it is a little obvious, but you don't. It's funny though that they don't even do it until the very, very end, like the end of the film.
It's the second to last scene of the movie.
Shows the little girl doing what she did, the tethered girl taking her down into the bunker, handcuffing her, and then going back up. And at that point, I think, again, it's like, hey, you need to show this because people are not going to get it.
It felt obvious, but that was just...
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's...
If they showed everything else, they shouldn't have to show that. That's like the grandma scene of this movie. Get him, grandpa. It's like, oh, didn't you get it? She is the tethered. Are we the baddies? Like, yes, you are. Yes, right. You actively fucking are this time.
But it's interesting, though, if you watch it without any of that. And hey, I miss twists all the time. I miss the twist in the fucking Sixth Sense. And I didn't watch that until it was out on video. And this was pre-internet, I mean, it wasn't pre-internet, but it was pre-me online 24/7.
Right.
I didn't know there was a twist to that movie. It seems so blatantly obvious when you watch it in hindsight, but I tend to watch movies sort of naively. And like you say, they're putting things in there specifically. The director is doing these things intentionally.
If they're a good director, mind you.
I just miss it a lot of times.
Right.
You know what I mean? So sure. I was surprised by the twist in The Sixth Sense. I wasn't surprised by this one because I already knew, but it made me not pay attention as much. And
would you have got it if you had known it ahead of time?
I don't think I would have gotten... I don't know.
Feels so,
it's hard to say.
It feels like they do so much to make it obvious that, like, one of the biggest successes of Get Out that we were just talking about is what? Allison Williams' character having that level of doubt to her intent up until she doesn't. But it's that moment that it flips that you're like, oh shit, like this is a great twist. It's landed well. It's handled well. There's not really any even clues given to her. Like you can go back and rewatch it, but she wasn't eating milk with cereal until the twist was found out. You know what I mean? She wasn't being creepy, which is like Jordan Peele was like, you know what's funny? Think about somebody eating cereal, but with the milk on its own. Like that had to be where that came from. But it works. In this movie, they try to have that same moment in the car with the son and Adelaide, I guess more aptly the Red, but Adelaide. And it's like, it doesn't work as well. You're just like,
at the end,
what does
when
that
he's
mean?
Staring her,
like, what does that mean?
You mean at the end when he's staring at her?
Yeah, but like, what does that mean for them? Like, what does that mean for him? What is he going to do? Nothing. What can he do? Nothing. So it means...
That's the only mom he's known.
Right. So it means nothing. Like, I have friends who never knew their biological parents and they call their stepdad dad. And when they refer to him as dad, they have to go, but he's actually, he's not my biological dad. He's my stepdad, but I call him dad. It's that same thing. It's like, this changes nothing. Like this this twist kind of doesn't matter to anyone but the audience. Right. Because what Adelaide is doing throughout the entire movie, she believes to be just. Frankly, it is just because the character of Red, we don't know anything about her other than, she was the original child, but now she's crazy.
Right. And it isn't like we're presented with a history for Adelaide where, like she slips, like she knows in the back of her mind that she's not really their daughter. There's no instance of Winston and her saying, remember when you did this shit in college? What the fuck was that all about?
Right.
That implies that she's anything but a normal person.
Which in my mind means, what does it matter if she is the woman from it doesn't fucking matter.
Well, that's why I said that's the only mom he's known. What difference does it make?
Right.
He has seen her now kind of go a little animalistic with the grunting and the stuff when she kills Red, because he's hiding in that locker. But what is he going to do? And what is she now going to revert back to that tethered state?
So no clues are given to that being a thing because she's been untethered for like 23 years. So it's that, I think, for me is the biggest problem with this movie. The twist is just idiotic. You see it coming from a mile away. It has nothing to do, it doesn't change the story. It's like in Get Out, when you realize, the grandmother and the grandfather are these like slaves, body slaves with a mind host, that changes the way you interpret the dialogue in the movie. This changes a couple things. I got 5 on it scene where she's snapping out of
rhythm,
off beat, but claiming it's on beat. So what means nothing, does nothing for anyone other than like, oh, that might be a clue. She's not who she claims to be. So what?
But I can't tell that she's offbeat though. I had to have that, like, I had to read about that to have that scene make sense to me, because I'm like, oh, she's offbeat. But if I watch it really carefully now, I get it. But I'm like, I did not catch on to that. That's what I'm saying. I didn't catch that on my own watching this movie, even knowing the twist. So it didn't. Because
it's a little bit of a stretch in this movie is my point. Like, it's a bit of a stretch here.
It didn't forecast the ending to me. Like, even though I knew the ending, I didn't see that and go, oh, that's obvious. Again, it's just me missing this stuff. But I think the thing that does sort of throw it off for me is her paranoia is so like on the surface when they get there, and when he says he wants to go to the beach, and it's like, oh, I understand, she had a traumatic experience there. She doesn't want to go back. I get it. But, and then you're thinking, well, no, is it because she doesn't want to, does she worry about switching back? I mean,
they should have given us more of who she is as a character throughout the movie. Like, I really feel like they should have given us as much about her as they gave of Daniel Kaluuya in the last movie.
Right. Well, I don't think that they do.
I don't think that they do. I think because it's split across 4 characters as opposed to 1. Look, Winston Duke is amazing in this movie. I think everybody in this movie is really good, frankly. Winston Duke, Lupita Nyong'o.
The kids are great.
Yeah. Elizabeth Moss and Tim Heidecker are not given much to do, but they play their roles perfectly, exactly what is needed of them for this movie.
And they're perfect for those characters.
Right.
Those asshole
yuppie dickheads,
white entitled shitheads that hate each other is just great. Yeah.
And Jordan Peele made this movie in response to people claiming that Get Out wasn't a horror movie. So this is a full-on horror movie, per his words. Sure. I don't know. Like, you know what the problem is? I would consider Get Out a horror movie. I don't know what to consider this movie, because it is scary, but it has the horror conventions. But in a lot of ways, it's kind of a thriller.
It's
in a lot
creepier,
of ways.
though. And the example I can use for that is, this is the one that creeped my daughter out. Like, this is the one she had a problem with after we watched it.
Sure, which I can see.
A lot of it had to do with how they looked, the tethered family with their kind of high foreheads.
Oh, yeah.
And no brows. And especially the daughter with her creepy grin on her face the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o, though, like, Jordan Peele knows how to cast his leads, because this is just an amazing performance by Lupita Nyong'o. Like, playing 2 characters. Performances. Well, everybody's performance is, right? But hers is just... If Daniel Kaluuya put Get Out on his back, which he did in a lot of ways, but that movie has great supporting characters, this movie is Lupita Nyong'o's movie entirely. There are some great performances that aren't hers, but Jordan Peele is asking a lot of her in this movie, more so than he asks of almost anybody else in any of these other movies. Yeah. Definitely in the next movie, but he's asking more than he asked Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out, because 2 roles, and one of them is, look, I would say what you will about the twist. The character of Red is proper horrifying and very, very creepy. The voice and the whole delivery is strange. And the fact that she's the only one that can talk is part of the twist and everything. But it is, of the 3 movies, this is the you watch this movie for her performance, as far as I'm concerned. That's my feelings on this movie are, it's okay. This is my wife's favorite of the 3, and I can understand why. But I think for me, like we've said, like, just it kind of crumbles under the weight of the concept, which, the concept's not even really explained. What are the tethered, really? And then the end of the movie is like, oh, look, hands across America. And I was just like, all right, like, I guess so. All right.
This is what I get. And it's still forming, because I think, again, like his other films, it requires multiple viewings, but I was really confused the first time I watched it about the concept and the tethered. And I believe it was, an governmental experiment. And so everybody has a clone basically that they keep underground it goes back to like government control, like, fluoride in the water, the daughter mentions that.
MK stuff.
Chemtrails.
Yeah.
All that fucking bullshit.
Urban legends.
All that shit that people believe that they're control. Wait, hold on. I got to get something on my phone here. Oh no. That the government is using to control us. So it's this high concept thing where there's actually a second you. It does everything you do mindlessly, and we can control them. And then
they're kind of in the sunken place all the time, aren't they?
The thing that I didn't quite get until the second viewing was, because I'm like, well, they fucking marry their doppelgangers too? How does that work? But she goes, that's part of her whole explanation about the differences in their lives. Like, you met a charming prince. I just get this dude because he looks like your charming prince. You had these wonderful kids, I guess, because we're genetically the same, we produce the same kind of kids. So blah, blah, blah. Going back to rabbits, why they eat rabbits raw, I don't know. If that has a racial component, I don't know what it is.
Run.
I mean, yeah, back to that, but also just raw rabbits. But the thing where they show at the end with the girl, Adelaide's younger doppelganger walking through, and it's basically just tunnels. It's just like a long hallway, but it's supposed to replicate the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. And you see all the people that she noticed early on in the film. A couple sharing food, the homeless person with the Jeremiah 11:11 placard, the people playing whack-a-mole or doing, on the roller coaster, and you see their doppelgangers underneath mimicking those movements. It's like, it's almost too much.
I agree. It stops making sense there because it's like that. What? They're just like bumping into the walls then all the time.
In a room, it doesn't. It's this weird underground complex. It's somehow supposed to replicate the varied and vast world that we live in.
Ever-changing world too.
Yeah, ever-changing world, right?
This is that, like you were talking about tugging at the sweater, like this is the first time in these three movies where it's just like, this concept is dumb. It doesn't, it's dumb because you took it there. You didn't have to go there with it, where it's like, and they're always replicating what you're doing underground. Like, that's stupid. That's actually really dumb and makes no sense. And how do you explain that away? Like,
well, how do they get from one place to another?
They walk.
Do they just stay in that location until you come back? Because they don't live in Santa Cruz.
Right. Makes no sense.
They've come back to their vacation home. Or do they have golf carts that they travel? So yeah, when you start asking all these questions, it falls apart.
But the problem is, it's like the minimal amount of effort to do so here. If I have to jump over 5 or 6 hurdles, that's one thing. With this, it's like, that's the first question I ask. Like, how do they get to and from places? And that's like surface level. So they explain like the whole, how do you get married and how do you have the kids thing, but you don't want to explain like, how are people traveling great distances?
What
happens when they fly to England? Where I've lived now. Or yeah, exactly. Like, I haven't lived where I live now my entire life. So how did that? It's stupid. Yeah. It is. Like, I don't want to be dismissive, but like, you've got to ask yourself, you can't abandon logic completely.
It's the logistics of it. I don't consider it dumb. I'm always intrigued by doppelgangers. I love doubling in movies and stuff, so I'm there with the doppelganger aspect of it.
Me too.
I think it could have been done differently. Why does everybody have to have a doppelganger? Again, why the white entitled family? They're on vacation too, but yet their doppelganger family is also there. Again, how did they get there? How do they know where they are? I guess that's just part of the tether. But yeah, the logistics of it do not work out no matter how you slice it. But it is an intriguing premise. And I think you just have to go, okay, fine. So their doppelgangers are back. Why? Well, because the main one, Red, wants her life back. She wants the life that she should have had. And that's an intriguing concept to me as well.
That would have been,
you stole my life.
That's a movie worth making.
And maybe the doppelganger situation could have been constructed a different way to where that I guess it doesn't work if it's simplified where it's just her doppelganger after them, but it would have led to a much simpler concept.
I think that the scope of this movie is way too large as well. Because it's like, oh, it's everybody's tethered are coming up, killing them, and then forming the Hands Across America thing. Like, I don't know if my tethered came to my front door, if I wouldn't greet my tethered with a gun and blow him away. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's horrifying.
Any more than you would. Like, would you like what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think the scope of this movie gets so wonky that it's like what worked about Get Out was the scope was very small. Like, it's upstate New York. It's one guy. Yeah, it's one guy. And there's like a handful of this happening to people. This is like, no, this is a government conspiracy. And it's like, okay, like
across the US or across the world or whatever.
If it had just been her or like a handful or just like Santa Cruz or something, cool. But you made the scope of this movie also causes the film to just start sinking into the swamp. It's mucked up by just kind of unnecessary amounts of nonsense. Because you know what? If it's just Santa Cruz, you don't have to explain where they're traveling and how many. Right. It's like that's a completely unnecessary plot point that nobody would ask about unless it was fucking CinemaSins, not my show. My show and your show normally don't delve into stupid ass shit like that. But like that's a CinemaSins level question. Like, how do they get to and from? But because you made it the United States of America, now I have to ask that question.
Well, yeah, and it could just be us extrapolating like, well, yeah, maybe they are just hibernating in Santa Cruz until they come back.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting about it is because my daughter was like, well, why are they, or it might have been my wife, why the one glove? And I'm like, I think that's a Michael Jackson reference.
Yes.
Why the sandals? And then you see at the end that's what she was wearing when she was taken. She's got the Thriller shirt on. So I think it all. I like that idea is that she basically runs the place now because she's a normal person that gets stuck down there. She has the ability to talk. So of course, and then when they see her dance, they're all enthralled with her. So she becomes the leader of the whole underground place, I guess.
Right.
But that she keeps those totems from her childhood, the Michael Jackson shirt, the sandals. This becomes their uniform. The scissors, I don't think I quite caught on to until just watching it the other day. Like, oh, well, that's because they cut out all those, they were making the Hands Across America thing all the time. Probably that was their project.
And how do you untether yourself from someone?
Right. And cut. Yeah. And so, because she had that shirt on underneath the Thriller shirt, the Hands Across. So that's why they're doing that. It's not because of, it's creepy or whatever. It's just these are the things that these are the last things that she had.
Right.
Or she basically got kidnapped and put down here. So that's her whole connection to the outside world are the clothes she was wearing and the few memories that she holds.
I think it's a little too subtle. Do you know what I mean?
Well, see, but then it's like, well, how much do you? Because when they start spelling it out, that's when it starts to unravel.
I know. I feel like I don't. Well, I think for me, this movie started to unravel when the scope got too big. I think that for me, I really think the scope of this movie probably is more the problem than anything else. And I think that a lot of the problems stem from the scope of the movie. This should have been a smaller story like Get Out was. You didn't have to ramp it up to America writ large. It's just, it feels a little kind of, why you're telling me that this is the only time this happened, this is the only place. Like, it feels a little higgledy-piggledy because again, like we talked about the Order of the Coagula in the last movie, right? It was like one scene. And that's it. Like, that's it. And we just keep going. In Us, it's like they keep coming back to it over and over again. It's like at some point you have made the snowball so big that it's just rolling down the hill on its own. You can't control it. And it feels like the balancing act of high concept is figuring out how big to make the snowball and stopping before it gets on its own path. And Us, for me at least, got a little ahead of itself and trying to contain the concept into a manageable thing that they could really expound upon without making it kind of goofy and kind of too big for its own movie, really. There's like two or three movies worth of stuff in this movie.
If it had been just her doppelganger family and kept it, you could still have the whole scene at the at Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss's house. It just could have been not their doppelgangers, but her family still dealing with them, because that's where they're going to try to go for safety, right? So they get there first, or get there, whatever.
Have the entrance to the tunnel be in the family's house. The home invasion part of the movie is, it's pretty good in this movie, but then you could have it going into the tunnels from the house. And you could, again, like you could give it the reason that they're at the house have meaning too. Because like you mentioned, they go all over the place in this movie too. They're at Tim Heidecker's house, they're at their house, they're at the boardwalk, they're in the underground tunnels. Like, it's just that's a lot. Even in Nope, they don't go this many places,
Yeah.
Like, again, high concept really works when you know where to put the limiters and how to constrain yourself so that high concept doesn't become far-flung concept. And that's like, this movie for me is really like, you pushed it a little too far. You just pushed it maybe 2 or 3 inches too far and kind of just kicked yourself in the ass in the process.
Yeah, it is definitely, of the three, the one that unravels the easiest when you start thinking about it.
But it's the one with the best performance. Like, Lupita Nyong'o is just so good that I kind of overlook how kind of dorky some of the stuff in this movie is.
I wouldn't call this one my favorite, but I still really like it.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
As more of a fun, creepy horror movie, because there are some genuinely creepy moments.
Sure.
Even beyond the home invasion part of the film, just their mannerisms and like talk about callbacks. They talk about the daughter being a good runner and all that. So she gets her moment to run, and that whole thing with the neighbor, or I don't know, not necessarily a neighbor, person down the street, wherever she ends up, and the doppelganger of her is on top of his car, and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing on my car?" And I just those separate scenes with each of their doppelgangers that we sort of feather out on, so that it's not just Red and Adelaide. I enjoy all of that stuff. I enjoy the attack at Heidecker and Moss's house. Again, it's choreographed interestingly, and I love the whole thing with their I was going to say Alexa, but their Ophelia, their voice command system, and fuck the police and all that. It's fun. It's a fun one to watch without thinking too much, but it sort of forces you to think too much, and that's where
it wants you to. Like, that's the problem.
If I start thinking about this too much, though, Mr. Peele, it's not going to make sense.
And I kind of feel like the people that were complaining about the genre of Get Out, which, like, I've never had a problem with, the genre confusion of Get Out, I've never had a problem with that. I have a problem with this movie with that, because, like, it's a horror movie, but, like, you could tell the story with no horror beats whatsoever. Like, that, this story doesn't necessitate it. It does because Jordan Peele wrote it, but this story could have been told without it the same way, like, in a lot of ways. Like, that's, I don't know. I want people who have problem with genres to kind of get over it. You know what I mean? I'm kind of past this whole, like, it's got to be horror. If it's horror, it can't do this, can't do that. Like, just, fucking movies are movies. Make the movie you want to make. And if people don't like it, people aren't going to like it because it wasn't a horror movie. And if those people don't like it because it wasn't a horror movie, frankly, those people can fuck themselves. Because if you are only making horror movies the way horror movies are supposed to be made, that is literally not art. That is the antithesis of art. And that is the antithesis of what I would consider to be creative filmmaking. Because if everything is expected to be the same, why are we making new movies then?
I think people get stuck on it didn't scare me, so therefore it wasn't a horror movie. And that to me is just, there are a lot of horror movies that I watch that don't scare me.
Are adults really asking for movies to scare them anymore? Like,
yeah. So that's but it wasn't even scary. Well, it's like, that is not the definition of a horror movie.
Right.
So first of all, you need to understand that.
Right. It didn't scare me. Good. I would hope not.
Is Get Out scary? Not really. There's a couple, when that fucking dude is running at him, that's creepy. I don't care who you are. Having some guy just like full bore running at you inspires creepiness in people.
From dark to light too, because he's in the shadow initially and then he's running. It's great. There's a reason that scene is in the trailer. Okay. Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's spooky, but it's spooky for a different reason. We find out, he's reliving his youth. But yeah, so that whole, if someone says something didn't scare them, that doesn't make it not a horror movie in my mind.
This movie could scare you though. Get Out is subtext scary. This is like surface level scary.
Yeah, this is surface level scary, and that's why this is the one that creeps my daughter out, because
I totally get it.
It taking place at night. They look weird. They act weird. You don't know what's going on if you haven't had the twist ruined for you. And it's unnerving and unsettling. And doppelgangers in general is an unsettling idea. If you really sit and think about, if I came face to face with someone that looked exactly like me, it wouldn't be like, hey.
Not if they were acting and dressed the way that the people in this fucking movie are.
Even if they just came, like you said, if they came to your door with no ill will, it would unnerve you. It would hit something in your brain that says, this ain't fucking right. I'm looking at myself, but I'm here.
Right.
And that idea is distressing, I think, to people, because you inherently believe that if you ran into someone that looks exactly like you, that they mean you harm. I don't know what it's. I mean, that's the whole thing with doubles, though. Almost exclusively in movies, even if they aren't horror movies, if you see your double, it's unnerving because you believe that they're out to take over your life.
Right.
Otherwise,
all
why
the
would
people
they be
with twins here are just like, you fucking non-twin having motherfucker.
Well, hey, twins, that's probably how you feel about your twin. Be honest.
I am.
Your twin will turn on you at the drop of a hat.
I mean, that's what we're told in media. That's for sure. Look, I'm with you. I think the idea of doppelgangers is interesting. I think it's a topic worth mining. And I think that there are more doppelganger movies to be made that maybe take what Jordan Peele did and do it even better. Because, yeah, for me, I think Us of the three is clearly the horroriest horror movie of the three.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's probably why I don't like it as much as I like the other two, because it kind of falls into the traps of the horroriest horror movies that I know. You could tell me that this movie, strip some of it out, strip some of the more stylistic Jordan Peele stuff out, and you could probably get away with telling that this was an M. Night Shyamalan movie. The high concept, like M. Night stuff is pretty high concept too.
Oh, yeah.
And this is weak high concept. This is weak T high concept.
At least by the time we got to Nope, I was going to bring him up. I watched the Red Letter Media thing on Nope, and they brought it up, and it's always something that's kind of stuck around in my head.
I had not watched any Red Letter Media stuff because I'm worried, because I know that we here at CultureCast / Wake Up Heavy / Weirding Way Media are fans of theirs, and they've paved the way for us as much as any other content creators have. And I always stay away from their stuff until I've talked about it myself, because they're never off point with their genuine criticisms. Their kind of snarky shit is different, but they're like genuine from the hip criticisms tend to be more or less accurate.
Yeah, well, I will bring it up again when we get to Nope, because I have a bone to pick with a certain...
There's a different director I'm going to be bringing up when we talk about Nope, baby. And his name also starts with an S.
M. Night Shyamalan is a good example of that high concept thing where some of the time when you start to pull at the thread, it's going to unravel. But it's where you were talking about original ideas with Jordan Peele when we were talking about Get Out. And that's, I think, where this goes, where I have to, I don't want to rehash stuff. So and that's where you maybe get a little too out there with things. I mean, you could compare this to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's a high concept idea, particularly the 78 or the 70s version, where this mass conspiracy unfolds in front of people's eyes and they don't realize it until it's too late. And you have people carting around seed pods, all over San Francisco and the rest of the world, blah, blah, blah. And it could start to unravel when you tug at it. I think this might have worked better with them just completely unexplained, yet we don't get that idea of the swap. And I think that's the important thing here is the swap between Adelaide and Red, even outside of the doppelganger concept and the families of doppelgangers and how it's that I was cheated out of my life. You're living the life I should have led. And this life down here was horrible. So that has to have some, racial.
It's about privilege, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. And they're a well-off family. It's nice to see that in a movie, and maybe not as well off as the Heidecker family. So you can make that comparison too. Why is his boat, why is his biatch nicer than the crawdaddy? Their house, they've got the Ophelia thing running their whole house and a backup generator. They don't have any of that at their cabin. That's obviously been handed down through the years to her.
Yeah.
It's her family's cabin. So on, there's all of that in there too, which I think if you make this a simple, like, I don't know why we have doppelgangers, then we can't explore that aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% on point. I mean, look, the message of Get Out felt a little bit more nuanced than the message of Us did. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. I think Get Out is just a more refined idea. It's more distilled and concentrated down into a basic idea that I think just works at its core. I think Us gets closer than someone else might making this movie, but I think it still kind of falls into some traps and maybe leans a little bit too much on some stuff that betray the film. I think it leans on these scenes of Adelaide and Red kind of having everything explained out in the open. It leans on that. It leans on these like flashbacks a little too much for its own good. And ultimately, once we get to the end of the film, it's like, but here's the twist. It's like, but yeah, we know, like you made it obvious. Like it makes it pretty. I'm not trying to be like Mr. Smart movie guy. I'm just pointing out what the movie does to make it obvious. Like it shows so many flashbacks and it keeps talking about these like things that by the end of it, the twist should make sense. Maybe not be obvious, but it should make sense. Twist does make sense. It feels also rather obvious, but it doesn't feel like it has any impact on anything because of the way the scope of the story is too big for her twist to really matter in the scope of it. There should have been another. You're telling me all these untethered are only going to listen to her? Like you're telling me this didn't happen anywhere else? Like if you expand the scope that big, those are the questions that have to be starting to rear their ugly head. If the scope's not that big, like it was in Get Out, you can kind of get away with it.
Well, and they show, the camera pulls up at the end and you see the helicopters and the fires. So but what does that mean for their family then? Because the kid really is the only one aware that like, oh, this swap happened. And what does that mean for us? And does it matter? Because like we already said, she's been living her life as Adelaide this whole time and seems to have adjusted. She might still be a little bit animalistic, but it only came out when they were threatened.
When she was literally being threatened with death by someone else. Like, again, like I think that's my issue with this movie. Again, like the concept just betrays the narrative because the concept is too big for the narrative to matter. Outside of you're happening to tell us this story, but then her story has implications to the greater narrative that kind of is just like, so what? So
yeah, it's too big. It's too big a story, and it doesn't get nailed down properly.
Yeah,
but I still think it's fun. I like this one. Maybe not as much as Get Out, but
I've said this before on other things, and I'll say it with this. A bad movie by Jordan Peele is still better than most directors' bad movies. It's still a better movie than most directors, like a lot of directors' good movies are even.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. There's a lot more humor in it. It's just a bigger, it's a second movie. You go big, and a lot of times say in sequels, that's the downfall of a sequel. You get too big.
Yeah.
you've got a bigger budget now. You can expand more. You can go with this really high concept and go and run with it. So.
Right. Well, speaking of high concepts and running with it, let's talk about Jordan Peele's most recent film, Nope.
Did you know that the very first assembly of photographs to create a motion picture was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse? And that man is my great-great-grandfather.
Great.
There's another great-grandfather. But that's why back at the Haywood Ranch, as the only black-owned horse trainers in Hollywood, we like to say since the moment pictures could move, yeah, skin in the game.
What's a bad miracle? They got a word for that.
Yeah, nah.
So the film is written, directed, and produced by Jordan Peele this time, with no one other than Ian Cooper, and it stars Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Stephen Yeun, Brandon Perea's in there. It's a bigger cast than we're used to, but a smaller cast in a lot of ways, frankly, because it's more or less about 4 actors. And the film is about Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer as brother and sister who run their father's horse farm. Hollywood horse farm, where they take horses to use in movies. And they are the original horse riding family of Hollywood. And wouldn't you know it, in their little horse farm out in the middle of Agua Dulce, which I think a bunch of characters in this movie have a really hard time pronouncing, which is funny to me, an alien shows up. How did you feel about Close Encounters of the Nope kind? Or should we just call it Jaws, maybe? Because, ladies and gentlemen, if Jordan Peele was trying to make a Steven Spielberg movie, he succeeded about as good as anybody else ever has, other than Steven Spielberg, frankly.
The first time we watched this, there was something about the pacing. Something threw me off, man, because I was like, I think I tweeted after I watched it, I was like, man, this movie flummoxed me. I am like flummoxed right now. I didn't not like it. And again, even though it was a shorter period of time between like theatrical release and VOD and when I was able to watch it, didn't really have everything spoiled for me, although I had seen The Thing. Well, let's call it a thing. I mean, we're going to spoil it, but I'll call it The Thing right now. I'd seen images of it. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? It looks like a sand dollar. And so I was just kind of going off that. I'm like, okay, something's up there, obviously. You know, all the trailers and all the previews and stuff hinted at an alien experience here of some sort, which I was down with. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Getting away from the horror part and maybe going more into the sci-fi realm. I'm cool with that. But I don't know, there was something about the pacing or the plot, something threw me off. And I don't know. I still don't really understand what it was. But when I asked my daughter after we had watched all 3 what her favorite was, she went back to Nope. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if I can say right now which one I like the most, but I don't think it's this one.
I think for me it is. I like Get Out a lot, but I like this movie a lot.
I liked it too. It's just something, and we watched
Spielberg by way of Peele.
Yeah,
like it's so.
I mean, I guess
it's a Spielberg movie. Like, you know, Super 8, right? That movie, that movie compared to this is like that's a the lowest level. Like, I'm sorry, J.J. Abrams, but you will live in Steven Spielberg's shadow your entire life.
That's a facsimile.
Right. For what you have tried to do and not nailing it. This is not a facsimile. This is at times a takedown of Steven Spielberg's movies, because of one of the main aspects of this movie is literally making fun of looking up at the monsters. Is one of the things that they mentioned in this movie like 8 times you don't do. And in every Spielberg movie, they're looking. And Spielberg is capturing that moment. I mean, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, baby. Richard Dreyfuss. That scene, right? I mean, he's looking at the aliens in that scene. It's a Spielberg movie, but at the same time, it's like poking fun at what you expect from those kinds of movies. And then it's thoroughly injected with about as much Jordan Peele-ness as humanly possible. I would consider everything to do with the monkey and Gordy's home is what makes this a Jordan Peele movie. And that story and how it kind of it infects the main story and kind of puts the main story in kind of an interesting light. And hey, Hoyt von Hoytema, anytime they're behind the camera doing cinematography, you know what you're going to get. And this movie is fucking beautiful on top of everything else. I would pay to see this movie in IMAX. I'm dead serious.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the best looking of the films by far.
God. Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah, that Spielberg thing is interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. And it's going to be interesting to go and watch it again with that in mind. That, and also the nostalgia that Spielberg is always playing with, that is a big part of this. I guess
I have nostalgia for the Scorpion King. Do you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely do. I remember when I saw that movie, I was of the right age. Jordan Peele is around my age. So he's batting in a nostalgia camp for me. And so when he was talking about Scorpion King, and then he has a Scorpion King hoodie on at the end of the movie, it was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. And like the Jesus lizard stuff and like just what they look like. Mm-hmm. It's much more informed towards a nostalgia thing. I mean, this is a nostalgia trip as well in a lot of ways. And part of it is about nostalgia, not so much nostalgia, but kind of nostalgia. What are the downfalls and the problems with nostalgia?
Taking it to task, because this is the bone I have to pick with the Red Letter Media review is, and it deals with the Gordy part of the story where Steven Yeun's character was this child actor on a sitcom that ran for a couple of seasons, and then there was a horrible disaster on set because they were using a live chimp. That's why you can't use live chimps anymore. But they were talking about that scene where the chimp goes berserk and wreaks havoc on the set, and I don't know that it kills anybody, but it
definitely kills people. It like kills. It doesn't it kill that guy?
The girl. I don't know about the guy. See, they don't show the guy, and I don't know that he mentions that. But the girl, that was on the show, his first crush, is in there later on when they're calling the creature down from the sky. She's at that lasso show, so she doesn't get killed. But the point that they were trying to make on Red Letter Media is that he survived because he didn't look Gordy in the eye, and so I saw that Red Letter Media thing between my two viewings of the movie and didn't fully remember that scene. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And they were relating it back to, this is what the other characters do. Don't look it in the eye, blah, blah, blah. But that's not actually what happens in that scene. He's not focused on the shoe that's just sticking up inexplicably.
The bad miracle. The bad miracle.
Yeah. He does look Gordy in the eye. Gordy just gets his brains blown out before he goes apeshit again. They do the whole fist bump thing. They're looking at each other.
Right. Which is why he interprets it as like, I've tamed the beast.
That's his downfall. That's what that relates to. It doesn't relate to the other characters because they would have no idea that Jupe didn't look Gordy in the eye. It is his downfall that we can tame this gigantic creature that's been coming here and feeding on horses that we've been buying and feeding to it. No, he thinks that he survived this, because whatever, he's got some power or something. He survived because by that time somebody had finally gotten there with a gun and blew the fucking monkey's brains out.
As they would say, nope.
Right.
I mean, that's what I love about this movie is every time it's like, you think you know where this is going. You think you know how this is going to end. It's like, nope. Like, and Steve Yeun's character in this movie is a stroke of brilliance. He's in the movie like 5 minutes is what it feels like. But it's like it's the counterpoint story that a movie like this one needs, because otherwise it is just a big dumb alien movie with the alien in the sky at their barn. But you inject it with this Steve Yeun story where it could be about nostalgia, or it could be about, man's hubris over taming the wild animal, or it could even be about, watching, because, then they introduce this whole SNL thing about, making light of tragedy and tragedy exploitation. And it could be about that too, and looking tragedy in the face or ignoring it. Or why do we were talking about before we started recording the Dahmer TV show. And like, why are people watching a show about Jeffrey Dahmer in 2022, drilling a hole in the head of people and putting acid in? Like, because people want to watch that. They want to watch that kind of entertainment and stare it in the face. And Jordan Peele in this movie takes a pretty heavy stance of saying, not a good idea.
Right.
But even he takes to task the main characters of the movie, because Daniel Kaluuya, or Keke Palmer at least, that was our great-great-great-grandfather. They don't know if that's true. That's what they're saying. But like that's what they're claiming.
Right.
But nobody ever gives them any credence to that in the movie. So in and of itself, it's, because they keep mentioning we need to get the Oprah shot. And it's like, well, does it matter? Because, the Oprah shot matters for Oprah, but like, you have all this footage of the alien now anyways, but you needed that Oprah shot because nobody would believe you otherwise. So the movie you could go in a lot of different directions. The fact that the Red Letter Media guys kind of missed it is surprising.
It's one of those things where when they said that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He was staring at the shoe, but that's not what's going on in that scene. It's one of those things
watching the monkey. Like, he's watching it.
Yeah, he's watching it, and the monkey comes up, and the point of view is from the Jupe character, and the monkey's looking right at him. Now, there's a little, the tablecloth is in the way, so it's obscuring their view, but then they go on to fist bump.
Which is, I guess, how he thinks he has power over the monkey, because they were fist bumping.
Right. So that was like, so when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh no, that's not what's happening here. But it does still inform the later film. I think it informs it in a more interesting way. Like you said, he thinks he can do this. So that's his downfall, along with everybody in the audience.
Unbeknownst to them, though, because the people who were there, then the other question is, what are you commenting on when you have him bringing all these people out here who don't know what they're in for? Because he hasn't even told them. And then
in a dangerous situation.
In an ungodly dangerous situation. Like, if they knew what they were, right. Because again, like, what does that say about our society and exploitation of tragedy and horrifying events? Like, showing the brutality without showing it also. Because this is a rather like goreless movie. It is goreless. Like, there's one scene that you could claim is like gory, but not like.
Well, that's the other thing.
It's about as gory as Poltergeist is.
I had heard that the chimp scene was gnarly. And I'm like, they showed nothing. Now, if you're disturbed by the implication of what the chimp
Mark
is doing,
pulling a Dennis Reynolds, the implication of what's going on.
Then I understand. If
you know about the real woman who got attacked by the real chimp in real life, which is what that whole thing is inspired by, the woman who had her fucking hands ripped off by a chimp. That's awful. Like, if you just know that, that's what they're playing off of.
But they don't show it. So I was confused.
There's like the swinging door. They use the swinging door trick even, which was like masterfully used. Because you have the scene where it's like you're seeing it happen, but the door is swinging open and close. Right. Yeah, when I read that too, people were like, it's so brutal and gross. It's like,
I mean, what's happening is disturbing, but they're not showing it.
They don't show a chimp biting someone's face off, which is clearly what happened. Like, clearly that's the implication, is that the chimp bit her face off.
Right. And you barely see that later on in the film when her veil goes up a little bit. But
as she's about to be eaten by an alien.
He's living off of his own, failed childhood stardom.
Nostalgia.
Which got derailed by this. He was big for a while. Now he's out in inland California in the middle of nowhere with this basically carnival. and probably feels a little bitter about that. But here's the chance to have something big again. And because I'm me, I can look this thing in the eye along with everybody else. Yeah, it's interesting. We talked about where you can watch this again and again. The one thing I had heard about the film, the reviews, not so much like just chitter chatter on Twitter, but in reviews, that idea of all the LA outskirt ideas in this. Like, not only are they outside of LA, their ranch, but just how it's a city that eats you up and spits you out, where that's basically where they're sitting as far as their job goes.
They're out at Vasquez Rocks, right? I mean, Agua Dulce is Vasquez Rocks. That's as big of a spot to film outdoor in LA as anywhere else.
Right. And
it's not a coincidence that they're in one of the biggest outdoor filming spots in Hollywood.
I mean, it makes sense for a horse ranch to be out there, close enough to LA, but I mean, as far as just like not only literal outskirts, but they're all connected some way very loosely to Hollywood, where it's tenuous. Like, even the Angel character says his girlfriend left him because she got a show on this. Everybody's out there to become famous.
Well, and that's why Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya are doing what they're doing.
Right. But I mean, they're slowly dropping away because of technology. So people aren't going to need real horses. They can just drag in that
CGI horse,
the thing that's going to stand in for the horse, and CGI it in later. Because why would you deal with a horse that's going to kick a crew member when you can just create one, right? So it's that nostalgia, but it's like, what are you nostalgic for? Because in reality, LA is this awful, awful place that eats people up and spits them out. That's sort
everybody
of
knows it.
The big takeaway for all of their different stories. Even the Antlers Holst, the Michael Wincott character, who is supposed to be this great cinematographer. Well, what the fuck is he doing shooting a commercial? I mean, I'm assuming that's what that shoot was for.
I thought that the Antlers Holst character was supposed to be Werner Herzog. Did you not get that vibe from him? Like, that's what it felt like.
I hadn't thought about that, but that makes sense.
Because like the end of the movie starts being kind of like this musing about like the creation of film itself and like what goes into that and who gets credit and how do people influence that. Because we talked about Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer played the children of Keith David, who's in the movie for
I know.
Like
I was so sad.
Me too.
Sad that he was gone so fast.
Gets killed by a falling nickel because the alien, when he eats people, or they eat people, spit out their bits, the things that it can't digest, kind of like corn for human beings.
Yeah.
So one of those things is a nickel, and a nickel, not like in The Simpsons when Lenny gets the penny in his head. If you were to have a nickel at high velocity travel into your skull, it would fucking kill you. And there's this whole question again, like, is their great-grandfather actually Alistair Haywood, or are they just saying that because, and you never get the sense of that, but you do get the sense that they're trying to recapture whatever it is they perceive to be as what they're guaranteed by their ancestor. And I like that idea of they bring in this Werner Herzog-esque character who's like, we don't deserve this. we don't deserve this. Miracles. So he just walks into the alien. But it's again like they're trying to, they themselves are caught in the rat race because no one in their right mind would stay out there trying to capture footage of the alien. I mean, Daniel Kaluuya goes, this is where I have to be. I don't have a choice.
Right.
Brandon Perea and Keke Palmer at one point are like, I'm going to stay back in the city. And he's like, I don't have a choice. Like,
I got to feed the horses.
Yeah. And like
mouths to feed.
And it's really funny because it informs this idea that we rarely think about with horror movies, where it's like, why would people go out there? It's like, sometimes it's like, what other choice do you have? It's your job. Like, you have to. And it's interesting because, again, like, you see him going onto set with the horse and, he's very demure and he's kind of, my name's OJ, just trying to be very matter of fact about it. And there his sister comes in and she's being self-promotional, but not promoting the business. And again, it's this interesting interplay of like the people who are just doing their jobs and the people who are out for themselves. And it's interesting because by the end of the movie, they align, obviously, but you get to see the Steve Ewan version of it. You get to see the the Werner Herzog Antlers Holst version of it. You get to see even the Brandon Perea version of it, of like, what does it look like in our society to go out for oneself and then figure out what is actually waiting for you at the end of the journey. For Antlers Holst, it's finding out that apparently we don't deserve miracles.
Right. Yeah, and I got the impression with him that he was dying because he's seen taking pills a couple of times, and I figured he's going to go get the money shot, and it doesn't really matter because he's done for anyway.
That's fair.
Not that it makes a whole. It's just one of those things again where it's nothing is explicitly said about his health in any way. It's just he's popping pills, and that's, I think, shorthand in movies for someone that has terminal cancer or something of the sort. So I always took his leaving with the little miniature camera, the hand crank camera, to go ahead and get them this shot.
The impossible shot.
They have him being sucked up into this thing. So that, how that relates as far as what Hollywood is or what it does to people, I don't know. But I noticed that the second time, like, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go wandering off, but a lot of times that's used as motivation for people to sacrifice themselves, at least in movies. Like, yeah. I'm already done for anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I like that he seemingly just goes. And again, like you said, it could be because he already knows he's dead, or it could be because that's the only way to capture the impossible shot, is to put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
Which is stupid, because any sane person would say, nope. I mean, that's my feeling about this movie. Yeah,
we already got the shot.
Nope. Like, I don't need to do anymore. Nope. Like, that's what I love about this movie is it does say to you, like, who in their right mind, like with Richard Dreyfuss's character in Close Encounters, like, who in their right mind would drive all the way to Devil's Tower to do all that? Nope, I'm not. But one person was there. Roy Scheider in Jaws, going out onto the boat and, chasing after the shark. Nope. Nobody would do that. But yet you find the people in this movie that do. Michael Wincott also bringing weird kind of Quint energy as well, which I appreciated. I appreciate it. Look, I like this movie a lot. I was really surprised by how much I like this movie, because it does scratch the itch of Spielberg in a more contemporary way. Contemporary for someone my age.
It's less saccharine too.
Right. I mean, that's my point. I don't want that. That's the stuff in Spielberg movies that drives me crazy, is like the family shit, but it's family in a very romanticized, one might even say childlike way. Belief like, oh, and in the end, everything will be okay. It's like, not necessarily, and not for everybody either, because not everybody is okay at the end of this movie. Keith David's gone. Steve Ewan's gone. Antlers Holst is gone.
Yeah.
A whole group of people that effectively did nothing are gone.
That did not sign up for this are gone.
But in a lot of ways, the question becomes, by being there, did they sign up for it? And that's, again, like, that's where the movie plays with your expectations. Yeah. Those people were there by their own choice. They didn't know what they were getting into, but when faced with an actual alien, they sure didn't run, or some of them tried to. There's a shot of Steve Ewan looking up at the alien jean jacket. And it's right before he gets eaten, and you see like the shadows of people flying up into it.
Uh-huh.
It's such a great detail that I feel like, other directors definitely would not have taken into account.
My daughter pointed that out when we watched it for the second time the other day. She's like, oh, you can see their shadows. I was like, and the other thing that again, the show don't tell, although this is sort of a tell, early on when he first sees it, or glimpses of it, but hears it, over the radio, or maybe on the TV, they're talking about missing hikers, and you hear their screams inside of the creature. And I don't think it didn't even make that. I don't even think I heard that news report the first time we watched it about missing hikers. It's just like, oh, this thing makes a weird noise when it's flying around. No, those were the fucking hikers being digested and screaming inside of it. And then the stuff comes out, kills his dad.
And God, those scenes inside of it, but you know what? How weird. And like in Us, they would have explained it. In this movie, it just happens. I was so happy to see the inside of the alien and just not explained. Don't explain anything. We don't have some alien scholar coming in. We literally have Brandon Perea going, which this is the one scene I felt was kind of, they kind of course corrected toward the end of it, but anyone who actually believes any of this stuff, like myself, know that the government releasing shit is shit. It's literal trash. There's no point in believing it because it's coming from the government. And they kind of like, they kind of don't get to that in the movie, which I felt like Jordan Peele, of all people, should be more dialed in, because the people in the community, like Brandon Perea, would not say, oh, that stuff's real. They'd be like, this is bullshit. Like, whatever it looks like, the government is not going to know what it looks like if they're claiming. But I really appreciate that in this movie, the alien is a cloud.
Well, and it's not, like you said, we don't have an exposition scene in this to say where it came from, what it is, what it
why
does,
it's
what
digesting
its motivation
people,
is.
anything.
That, to me, is much more interesting than an offhanded conversation that you can start pulling apart if you think about it too much. It's like, what the fuck is this thing? I don't know. It's alien. And at the end of the movie, that is much more apparent. Like, what in the hell is this thing? What is it made out? It's close to those ideas of, like, if you were to ever encounter something like that, you wouldn't have any way of being able to describe it.
You would look at it and go, what the fuck is this? And then you would try to rationalize it out in a way that makes sense. Look, the thing that I've seen and the thing that I've been reading and kind of my whole wondering is the alien at the end of the movie looks very oddly like the interpretation of angels, the actual angel interpretation in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I wonder, like, what, I don't think that means anything, but like, UFOs, ancient aliens, that whole connection. Like, I don't know what the alien in this movie is, or if it's even an alien. Again, like, it's clearly there is something there. It's a being, but I also wonder, like, are the aliens that we're seeing, is it just like a camouflage? Like the alien saucer part, is it just a camouflage? Because in this movie, it's leading me to believe that it's just a camouflage. The alien saucer part is a camouflage for something else. And that's an interesting idea that I have not seen really explored anywhere else. But it's clear that, like, it unfurls itself into something else, but it uses the saucer shape to kind of travel around.
Yeah.
But that's like it looks more like tarps. Like when it's moving next to him and he's on the horse, you can see like the wind rustling through it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's folded. It's like folded into that shape, that circular sand dollar shape.
Right.
You can see the ripples and stuff. Yeah. Is it an alien? I mean, does it matter? Is it an alien, or is it just a being that survived in hiding in areas like this on our planet? Is it eating people benevolently, or is it eating to just survive? I mean, again, it's not made clear. Are we encroaching on its land? I mean, people have obviously lived in that area for hundreds and hundreds of years, but that idea to me is more fascinating, where people in their hubris take over areas and get mad about not even animals, but just like flora that encroach. It's like, you're the visitor here.
Right.
I've lived here for millennia. You're trying to control my habitat, not the other way around.
The hubris of man, dude.
Yeah, that idea always fascinates me about when nature turns. So this could be a When Nature Turns movie. If you want it could be an alien movie. It could be.
I mean, the whole stuff with Gordy is When Nature Turns.
I've lived in this canyon for hundreds of years, and you just never noticed me. I usually fly over here to eat, but a long time ago, there were a lot more wild animals for me to eat. Now there aren't, because of you fuckers. Now I got to eat you and your horses and this, but this is, I don't go to Hollywood to eat people, because this is my land.
And if it went to Hollywood to eat people, it would get noticed.
You're right.
It's clear that it also understands how to not be noticed.
And it laughs.
It
has a sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about the creature is, while nothing is explained, enough is explained that I kind of can formulate my own ideas. Are they necessarily right? No. Maybe everything that you just said is wrong, but you know what? Nothing is explained enough for me to have a definitive answer either way. So we can just expound upon it however we please.
Right. Yeah. We can, again, men, we can come up with our own ideas. I think it's a creature that's earthbound, that's lived here for millennia, and The only reason it's being noticed now is because it's running out of food. And so it has to do what it has to do, and it's eating people because you're the fucking thing that's going in there now.
And without technology, would people have noticed it anyways?
Right. There used to be more foxes I could eat. There used to be more whatever live in that area. Now they're gone because you people are chasing them out or killing them because it's on your property. I mean, that's a tale as old as man, trying to tame the wilderness. That's what men are supposed to do, is live with the wilderness.
Right.
That's how you survive.
and what's funny is clearly for the longest time, they were, again, Daniel Kaluuya's family has lived out in the wilderness for, generations, what they claim, out there doing the horse thing. So again, and yet they had never been bothered by it unless it wasn't there, or maybe it was, who knows? Again, my whole thinking is if you want to go the whole technology route, people didn't notice it before because when they looked up at the clouds, they just looked up and then looked down. People weren't staring at the clouds and filming it, but all the characters that are filming the clouds are the ones who are noticing that the clouds never move. Daniel Kaluuya even says it himself. I've stared at the sky for 6 months and I have seen nothing.
Right.
And now I notice that cloud's not moving. But all the other characters, like the paparazzo character, like Brandon Perea's character, they notice it immediately. They go, oh, that cloud's not moving. But Daniel Kaluuya doesn't notice it for 6 months, possibly even longer. And without technology, you wouldn't have. Again, it's the technology to try to tame animals also puts you in a bad spot, like with Gordy's home. No one in their right mind would put a chimp in a room with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But yet they did, Nope.
Not for a sitcom, at least.
Right. And that's what and that's what I absolutely loved about this movie is it goes, whether or not Jordan Peele intended to, and I would err on the side of, given the last 2 movies we've seen of his, what they're like, this is all intentional. All of it. Maybe some of it's my interpretation with my history and the things that I've seen coming into it, but we're still in the same ballpark. We may not be hitting at the same section, but we're still kind of in the same ballpark of ideas. I
mean, it's high concept again. It's
yeah. I think it's a little lower concept than everything else we've seen almost.
It's not over. It's more, this to me dives into more of the M. Night Shyamalan area of like Signs or The Happening, where nature because that's nature in one and aliens in the other. So maybe not high concept, but still.
This is the best of those 3. If you put it up against those 2, this movie is the best of those 3. But you're right. It's tackling, at least this and The Happening are tackling very similar ideas of what happens when nature pushes back. And I would agree with you if this creature was from Earth, because they have this whole UFOs thing, which, yeah, fine. Okay, we can go into that. I mean, we're not going to, but they
splitting hairs.
Yeah. But like them going into that in my mind is like more credence to your point. It's like that, they're getting into those ideas and like, what does that mean? And I think it's more like they're maybe missing the point. I think it's more interesting if it is just unidentified, but not extraterrestrial, which is why they say the whole unidentified thing, because that's what they are, but they are identified. It's a whole thing. But I like that too, because again, like you said, if it's a terrestrial from creation, that's more interesting than it's just like an alien who shows up.
I think for me, it's more interesting to think of it that way, as having been here for who knows how long.
And I think it speaks to the Gordy's home-ness of the movie, of what that little side tangent is informing us of. And I think that it being a wild animal, treating it like an animal, less a UFO, I think is what they're going for. I mean, it's almost like a cobra, right? Or like a snake, it rears its head up and it's got I mean, again, like that's in my mind, like they're presenting it as a UFO until they're not. And then it's an animal and they refer to it as such. I mean, at some point it's a UFO. And then Daniel Kaluuya says, nah, this is Jean Jacket. And it's because it's a horse that my father could never tame.
Right. And also from the beginning, like, don't look it in the eye with the horse, not Gordy, but with the horse when he's there on that set, like, don't look him in the eye. And then that's when they put that, I'm not sure what that thing is. It's like a thing that finally spooks the horse.
It's like a little mirror thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess a light gauge or something, which he then constructs, but doesn't end up using. I don't think. Does he use the one that he's trying to make at home?
No, but I like how at the end of the movie, when he's riding on the horse, he puts the little reflectors on the back of his hoodie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Again, attention to detail with Jordan Peele is always going to be there. I like that you have the scene where the creature comes over the house and it's just regurging.
Yeah.
Just blood and keys and coins and wheelchairs and all kinds of stuff.
Wheelchair.
Her right.
Wheelchair. The girl.
Right. Right. The poor woman, the poor woman who survived one animal attack only to be eaten by another.
I made a goofy connection in my head when I watched it the second time with Keith David and The Thing, but it doesn't really relate to The Thing because this isn't discovered, or it's sort of rebooted in the prequel about it not being able to digest inorganic material.
Right.
So I was like, oh, is that a nod to those two films?
And what I wonder is, because you mentioned it being like a constant animal, if it had been eating animals, nobody would have ever seen it.
Right.
Because there is no inorganic matter.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been spitting. It wouldn't have had to spit anything out.
Yeah. I also like how the name of the place that Jupiter opened is Jupiter's Claim, which is again kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod. Jordan Peele, when he's firing on all cylinders, he's really firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And I even like that this movie's broken up into chapters. It gives it more of kind of like not like a fairy tale quality, but kind of a fairy tale-esque quality even, or a fable maybe.
Yeah, I like it when movies do that. I think some people get bothered by it, like, oh, we'll pay attention to this now. But usually when a movie does that, for whatever reason, I enjoy it. So it's like, got Nope, we've got Gordy, got Jean Jacket. I think there was one other chapter.
Lucky and Clover and Ghost.
Yeah.
So
pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And it's a literary tool as well. So
right back to the literary stuff. I mean, look, Jordan Peele, Alex Garland, their ability to really inject every scene with something of value or a dialogue beat or a line that can be interpreted one way or another. That is not easy to do, obviously, and it's even harder to do well. And Alex Garland and Jordan Peele, I think, both have the innate ability to do it well, regardless of the genre, quote, because again, if you have a problem with the genre of the last two Jordan Peele movies, it's going to be even worse here. How could you watch this movie and not go, what the hell did I just watch? If you were expecting it to just be a, quote, horror movie, unquote.
Well, and so much of it takes place during bright daylight,
which I love, by the way.
And back to the Alex Garland thing, also trusting your audience, I think, is a big part of it, where let me figure those things out for myself. And I'm probably not going to get them all the first time. And I know I didn't on any of these movies pick up those little hints and things. But that show don't tell really goes a long way for me. Like, I don't need to be bashed over the head with an explanation as to what Jean Jacket is. I'm having more fun deciding for myself what I think it is. And there's nothing in the movie, I don't think, that can prove my hypothesis wrong. I'm not saying it's the right one, but it's like a David Lynch film. He's confident enough in what he did that the movie speaks for itself and your interpretation is just fine. Go with it. Interpret it however you want. I'm not going to interject myself here and tell you you're wrong or you're right. It doesn't matter. I had an idea in my head. I put it on film. That's it. That's all we're going to say about it. And when directors are able to do that and not get too much interference from the studio, then we're going to have probably a good time.
Does this feel like the least studio interfered movie? Because it kind of does.
Well, if you think about, like, I had totally forgotten about all those alternate endings for Get Out. It's been so long since that movie came out. And I don't know if any of that extra exposition in Us was because of that, or if it's just, it was such a kind of a massive idea that it had to be explained. But yeah, there's like very little explained in this movie, like to the point where I think that's maybe what my issue was at the end, or why I felt sort of like, not even confused, just like I thought something different was going to come out of this. And that didn't like bother me, or like I said already, didn't make me not like the movie. It's just my expectation was, I don't know what it was, but having nothing explained was definitely a part of that, but a good part, because I hate it when movies over explain themselves. with the scientist. There's no scientist character in this telling them what they think it is.
I'm with you. I mean, just sitting and thinking about what my expectations were going into the movie, I didn't even know what the movie is going to be about, other than like, it's probably an alien. But even like, again, is it? I don't know. Like, the Jordan Peele has a very innate talent at setting a movie up one way and executing it another. Get Out is a very good example. Us is not as good of an example. This is a great example, because by the end of the movie, it's leaning on Spielberg tropes and, the rah-rah moments of the audience standing on their feet and cheering for some of the things that happen in this movie, like Daniel Kaluuya's kind of moment with Jean Jacket, or Keke Palmer's moment with Jean Jacket. Those are all like big, boisterous Spielbergian moments of character kind of accomplishment and success and achieving those goals that the characters are working towards the entire movie. And that feels so Spielberg. You have these scenes of Jean Jacket in the distance exploding and Daniel Perea. And it's all evoking a grander kind of storytelling that Jordan Peele hasn't really played with until this movie. And I don't know if I want him to make another one of these kinds of movies personally, because I don't know what else you need to say, but this is really a summer blockbuster in the vein of Jaws and Close Encounters and movies like that. Spielberg movies, really, but also the kinds of movies that he's inspired other filmmakers to make. But a big spectacle that, has a little bit of stakes to it, but ultimately, the characters are going to get out okay. And this movie traffics in that 100%. Almost all the characters that you're invested in survive, to the point where Brandon Perea's character was written back in to survive. He was originally supposed to die. And that, what that smacks me of, remember Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws? I mean, same thing. His character in the book doesn't survive.
Right.
And yet in the movie he does, because Richard Dreyfuss was so charismatic and charming as the role. And again, it's just like those weird kind of similarities. They don't stop at just the way the movie was made. What you see on screen, you could show this to someone and be like, who made this? And they might say Spielberg. They might.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but it makes sense.
But that's why I like it, because it's at times a Spielberg movie, but it doesn't have the saccharine bullshit because the dad dies and the characters are honest with one another and they don't have a good relationship. And I'm not even sure by the end of the movie they have a good relationship.
Right. Yes.
And that's made very clear. And I'm not even sure by the end of the movie that they do succeed. They succeed personally in their own mind, but you do get the sense at the end of the movie that, the reporters saw what happened. And like the world will know. And so does it really matter that they got the Oprah shot? It's not made clear. In the Spielberg movies, it's like very obvious what the outcome is. Like Richard Dreyfuss goes with the aliens. Roy Scheider kills the shark.
Yeah.
Jaws 2 changes things. But this movie even says at the end, like, did they achieve what they were trying to? Yes, but does it matter?
At what cost?
Yeah. Nope.
Nope. That was another thing from the Red Letter Media review, and I hadn't even heard this, and the term sounds familiar, but that whole idea of the nope, even though it's said repeatedly through the movie, it could be an acronym for not of planet Earth. I was like, oh yeah.
That feels like something a much less talented director would do.
It could be, but I don't think I'd like that explanation.
I just like it as the explanation of like, these characters are doing things they know they shouldn't do that no sane person would really do.
Well, and it also relates directly back to the nostalgia or the kind of lost childhood, because it seems to me, again, this is me making an assumption that was the catchphrase for the show he was on. The mom says it at one point and it gets a big laugh, and it sort of seems like that's something that they always said on that show. Like, why can't your dad, who can do this, figure out how to do this? Nope. And then the audience laughs, and it's like, they probably said that all the time on that show during its 2-season run before tragedy struck. So is that, are we going back to that looking back, they all have something in their past that is not necessarily there anymore, that they're grasping onto still? Or is it, not of planet Earth? Phraseology for alien shit, Yeah. I don't think it's an alien.
No, I would be. Well, let me put it this way. They don't treat it like an alien by the end of the movie. It's treated like an animal.
And they don't, once they figure out it's not a UFO, then it becomes a whole other
then it becomes Jaws. It really becomes like a Jaws-esque movie of like trying
to
capture the creature
somehow.
Yeah. In this, they're trying to get footage of it. In Jaws, they're trying to kill it.
They figure it out on their own. These two, adults, but still young people who have never experienced anything like this. The guy from Fries, they, by watching it, figure out its habits. Like he says, it's an animal. It has rules. So they figure out the electrical stuff. So that's how they can kind of track it now. And
which I thought was used rather well. I mean, that's again kind of a trope, but I think it's used sparingly but well in this movie. Speaking of Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
right? It's a trope, but they utilize it. They don't just go, "Oh well, shit," So start using stuff that doesn't require a battery or electricity.
They fucking use that in the X-Files. I mean, that's a thing. Like loss of time and loss of power are two big indicators of Close Encounters, really.
Yeah, Close Encounters, like you said, one of our earliest movies to use all of those tropes together, kind of take all those things from eyewitness accounts and things like that of what happens. Oh, my car died. Oh, the power went out in my house. Well, what do you do when that's the case? Then you utilize tools that don't require power. So a hand cranked camera, this or that.
Hand cranked IMAX camera.
Yeah.
Which is just like the nuttiest shit. Like just insanity. But that scene where he goes, "This is the camera," and Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya are like going ape shit. It's like, like this is the guy you want here. Like this is the crazy asshole with a hand cranked IMAX camera that you want here.
Oh man, when they smack each other's hands, it just makes me hurt. That had to have hurt.
They're really into it, though. Yeah. They're really into it. I like that they have the little wiggly inflatable arm men to figure out where he is in the sky. Right. It's so smart. It's well thought out, which is why Us is such kind of a bummer. Because like this is the same director, same writer. Like you feel like Us is just right there because like he nails it with Nope. He nails Nope about as well as he nails Get Out. I really feel like.
And you see all those things. You see the horse that she steals. And I first time I watched it, I thought that was their horse. I'm like, what's the big deal? Because, they're right by each other and they deal in horses. So I thought it was their horse announcing where their ranch was. And so take that leads them to a discovery. He doesn't like, flags or string or whatever that messed him up. And then they see, of course, all the balloon guys. So, we can utilize those. We can see those from a great distance. So we'll use that to let us know how close it's getting. Yeah, it's smart. It's using all those callbacks and things that I don't need it spelled out for me. Show it once. I figure those things are going to come back. I see how they were brought back. I appreciate their use in this. It makes sense. And they utilize all the car batteries from the people who got sucked away. They don't need those cars anymore.
Yeah.
So that's how we'll hook these guys up. We'll hook them up to car batteries. And then when they go out, we'll know it's near blah, blah, blah.
It's very well thought out. It's very smart screenwriting. I don't know how else to describe what Jordan Peele does other than just thoughtful screenwriting.
Yeah, and to have your characters, you're passing on that smartness to your characters where they have been mindful of what's happening. They're not the idiots scrambling around like, whoa, what do we do? What do we do? Okay, it does this. The power goes out. These things happen when it attacks. The eye contact thing is sort of a Deus Ex Machina in a way.
It's a little higgledy-piggledy. That's the one thing.
Why would a creature this enormous care whether something this tiny is looking up at it? But
ask the T-Rex that in Jurassic Park, man.
I mean,
that's what it felt like. That was like another Spielberg thing where it's like calling out Spielberg almost because that's I don't even remember if that's in the book Jurassic Park. It might not be. I don't remember, but everybody remembers it from the movie. And that's not a real T-Rex thing either. Their eyes were not based on movement. I mean, that's been answered obviously since.
How would we know anyway?
Sure. But I like that it's like you said, like that's kind of it's goofy. It feels almost intentionally goofy in this movie that this like giant thing is just, it only cares if you look at it. What? Okay. But it works again because it's an animal, because it's governed by rules. And that's why in Jurassic Park, it works there too. Because again, we as humans believe that animals are governed by a set of rules. Believe.
Instinct as rules, things that their brain basically tells them to do.
They can't not do it. A dog can't not chase a cat if it sees it. So we believe. Whether or not that's reality is something else. But in a film context, it works just fine. Yeah, I was glad to see what this movie ended up being, because what I expected it to be was something else entirely. And I think that's also a big success, because with Get Out, it is kind of what I was expecting, and Us wasn't, but this really wasn't. And it's not like it's because there was some third act twist. There's not really a twist in this movie, which also helps, because it shows that Jordan Peele can make a good film that doesn't need a twist.
I mean, unless you consider the fact that it's not a ship, that it's the creature, a twist.
Doesn't change anything though.
No, and I think I was really happy that it wasn't a ship and we didn't have creatures to be disappointed by, that this was the creature. And that unfurling at the end was like, what the fuck is that? I mean, there are some sea creatures that kind of balloon out like that. So that may have been part of the inspiration, but it's not, I mean, other than the thing shooting out the mouth, I guess, the orifice, like constantly shooting out like streamers, that the forms itself take are very much nature based. So again, that just goes sort of more to my point.
They look very organic.
Yeah, that this is an earthbound creature. But yeah, it does a good enough job to where I'm going, what did they base this on? Especially that thing shooting out when it got really upset. Like, what the fuck? What do you base that on? Sea creatures, I guess?
Yeah, jellyfish, Neogenesis Evangelion, apparently, is what Jordan Peele said, which is a anime. I like when a director goes, I want you to see something you've never seen before.
Which is hard to do.
Oh, in this day and age, it sure is. And we talked about offline before Ritual, the Netflix horror movie that has really good creature design.
Yeah.
So does this movie. This movie's creature design is amazing, because they take your expectation of an alien, and it's, again, you don't understand that it's not an alien until you see it turn and start moving like this next to Jordan Peele. And then you get kind of a sense of what this is. And this is not an alien as we are being led to believe. And from then on, like, it's just, it shows us something that you will not see in any other horror movie, especially an alien horror movie, sci-fi horror. This is also a sci-fi movie, right? I mean, again, it's Close Encounters adjacent. This is about as scary as a Steven Spielberg horror movie, which I guess is what, Poltergeist?
I mean, the only scary part is the goof on them when Jupe's kids come over to scare them.
Yeah, which also another great subversive scene, because it's scary. Like, it's a pretty scary scene. And then you realize what's going on, and it's not scary, but it's not.
Oh, my wife, trust me, she screamed and jumped.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
First one kind of comes up off the floor and you don't notice it at first, and then it starts moving. And peeking around the corner. Like he says, nope.
Yeah,
that's scary. Out of there.
That's scary stuff, man. Like, that for me was, again, like, it was reminiscent of Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton, and that story, and like the aliens, and like in fucking Communion, and the aliens peeking around the corner. I mean, Whitley Strieber talks about it. I mean, that's what it reminded me of, but that's not what this is.
Yeah.
But that is what that scene is evoking.
That's what they're calling back to. You could even say the presentation of E.T. in the cornfield is scary that way, when you don't know that it's a benevolent creature,
right?
That you're only getting glimpses and peeks around corners. And like I've said in the past, when you see something like that, if you see somebody you thought was a shadow slowly rise up, 9 out of 10 times you're going to shit your pants. Or somebody slowly poking their head around a corner, not even an alien or a creature, just somebody poking their head around a corner slowly like that. Fuck it, dude.
Nope.
You'd either freeze in your tracks or, hightail it out of there as fast as humanly possible.
Nope.
Get the nope out of there.
that's what I mean. That's a genuine phrase. Nope the fuck out of here. Like I'm gonna nope the fuck out of here. Like I've heard that. I've said that. And again, that's with that scene. That's what I was thinking. It was like I'm fucking out of here. And you know what? That scene with Daniel Kaluuya in the barn is genuinely one of the scariest scenes I've seen in a very long time, because I was pretty not scared, but again, like the way it's presented is pretty terrifying, because that's the story that you hear from people who have had this happen to them. It's just these shapes that all of a sudden start materializing and moving towards them. And then all of a sudden you're surrounded and they're taking you to their ship. Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky, Whitley Strieber, Communion. And that's what
I thought that's what was going on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, oh no. Okay, it's not.
Right. But for a second you thought it was. And that's the success of this movie.
And it was done very effectively. It was creepy. We were all creeped out by that scene when we watched it.
Yeah. No, like we've said, I liked this movie a hell of a lot. I'm looking forward to my second and third and fourth and fifth watches of it. And I think you would probably agree, I'm looking forward to the next film that Jordan Peele comes out with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever it is.
Hey, I'm on board with what M. Night Shyamalan does next. So I'm definitely on board, because although I would say that I was definitely on board with M. Night after his first three films as well. So we'll see. But I'm still on board because I think he's brought it back around. So I'm definitely on board with what Jordan Peele does next.
And again, Jordan Peele, it's clear to me that Jordan Peele doesn't need to use the twist to make his movie work. And that was my concern with Get Out and Us, is not Get Out so much, but kind of, but definitely Us. It's like the twist is, you don't need it. Like, you don't need it. And look, he doesn't.
Yeah. And and to say that they all have twists, and if I said that earlier, it's really not true. It's sort of like the Rosemary's Baby thing, where you think one thing is happening, or the protagonist thinks one thing is happening. She thinks they're out to sacrifice her baby. It's much more insidious than that. In Get Out, you think, oh, they're making sex slaves. It's much more insidious than that. But Us, is it really a twist? I mean, I guess so. The twist of the swapping of the characters, and in this, there is no twist. So it's not like, and there isn't necessarily a twist in every M. Night Shyamalan movie either.
No, but that was kind of what he was known for, to the point where Robot Chicken made that joke about him.
Is Signs a twist?
Yeah,
it's actually aliens.
But the aliens are afraid of water. That's the twist.
That's the twist.
I don't know. Look, I haven't fucking seen that movie I have seen that movie one time, and there's only one thing I remember about that movie. That scene with Joaquin Phoenix watching the TV. That stuff is great. Everything else, everything else, not so much.
I like it. We've watched it as a family and enjoyed it. I've taken my daughter down the M. Night Shyamalan path.
This is your fault, because the next time we watch something, it will be M. Night Shyamalan movies. Because guess what? I've never seen
The Sixth Sense.
That's correct. Never seen it.
Hey, man, it is a damn good movie.
I've never seen it. I would love to watch it. Because the first three M. Night are what? Signs,
Sixth Sense, Signs, and Unbreakable. And I think Unbreakable, I always think that Signs was his second movie, but I believe Unbreakable was his second movie. That was the Bruce Willis twofer, and then Signs. All three of which I liked, and then it kind of goes a little haywire after a while.
Girl in the Water.
I like The Village. That's the one that I will never watch again.
Lady
I like
in
The
Water.
Village, which does have a twist. Lady in that Water one is just wacko, but like, I enjoy The Happening. Again, my daughter and I watched it. There was some wacky acting and some awful dialogue.
No,
but it's interesting. The opening of that movie is fucking great. I'll tell you that right now.
Is that where all the people are just like throwing themselves off of buildings?
That scene, yeah, just all of the different stuff that's going on is done really well. It's very Shyamalanistic.
I'm not a Shyamalan hater. I haven't seen the movies that he made his bones with. I have not seen Unbreakable. I have not seen The Sixth Sense. I have seen Signs, and I saw what the fuck, Split. That's a masterclass by James McAvoy. I love that.
Yeah,
movie.
Split's good. Split's good. The sequel to that is not so good, but
I do think it's funny to mention Shyamalan and Jordan Peele, because there are weird similarities. And I hope that Peele's career doesn't mirror Shyamalan's past his third movie. And I don't think it will. I think that Jordan Peele, look, here's the thing. Shyamalan did all kinds of weird stuff. He went and made a big budget movie with that Avatar movie. And now he's back to his roots with like pseudo horror and horror adjacent and just straight up horror. And I think it's like you've mentioned, it's suiting his sensibilities better. And look, I genuinely wonder, will anyone ever direct a Jordan Peele script as well as he write and as well as he directs his own stuff? Because that's the other question, right? Do you think someone could direct this movie as well as he did? I don't know if anyone would want to. I don't know if Jordan Peele even wants to write for someone else. If I were him, I wouldn't want to. If you're giving me the opportunity to direct and write my movies, dude, fuck that. I'm going to do it. Right? Because this is what you get. Like a studio director is not going to make Nope the way Jordan Peele did.
Yeah, it might come to that point where, he's not like Tarantino though, where I've got all these scripts, but I can't make them all. So all these, Tony Scott's going to make one or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's the best Tarantino movie that he's ever made.
But I don't know. I don't know. Who knows?
I've seen Keanu, which is a movie that he wrote but didn't direct. So who knows what that movie could have been if he had directed it? I don't know if it would have had more Jordan Peele sensibilities and less the usual kind of stuff. Because that's the thing about Nope and Us and Get Out that I think cannot be overstated enough is how important Jordan Peele is to all of this. His eye, what he loves, what he cares about, the things that have influenced him as a filmmaker. If you're writing and directing your movies and the studio is on board with you, giving you first look opportunities, you're going to make some wild shit. And you know what? Make that shit until the wheels fall off, because like with Shyamalan, at some point they might. And with that Twilight Zone show, my opinion of Jordan Peele changed a little bit because it felt like he attached his name to it, but didn't do anything to actually help with the show. Because to bring this conversation full circle, he on that show is the worst thing that he's ever done because he's involved with a show that doesn't suit even his sensibilities. I want to know what a Twilight Zone show would look like if Jordan Peele was the Rod Serling of the show and not just the Rod Serling of the narration, because that's essentially what it seemed like he was involved with. But I mean, you look at Nope, you look at Us, you look at Get Out, you understand why people want to work with Jordan Peele. Because you know what? If I was an actor and Jordan Peele phoned me up and said, "Do you want to be in my movie?" I would say yes in a heartbeat, because he's making interesting and exciting movies, just like Alex Garland is.
Agreed.
So final thoughts on Nope, Us, and Get Out, Mr. Begley?
I like all of them. I don't know that I've nailed down a favorite. Not that there's any reason to do that, but I asked my daughter which one of the three she liked the most. It's Nope. Which one do you think has the longest staying power? Well, that might be Get Out, just because of the way it touches on it's not just a horror movie, if we can say that. It touches on some societal things,
right,
that I'm afraid will still be relevant as the years go on. It's
unfortunately
not any less relevant now than it was 5 years ago. That's for sure. I think Nope might be one that ends up getting kind of upped by generations. Like, not that it didn't do well or anything right now. I don't know how it did compared to the other ones, but again, it's a different time because those were both pre-pandemic movies. But if it didn't make as big an impact just because of the times that we're living in, and if people that maybe didn't see it when it came out will see it when it's streaming somewhere or when the Blu-ray comes out and blah, 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 and through the years and kind of get into that less is more sensibility of that compared to at least Us, where, I can figure this all out, or I can make this stuff up for myself, what I want to fill in the blanks with.
I agree about Nope entirely. I think that Nope, all the other movies aside, I think Nope is the one that will be reappraised and its audience will be found. I think there's still more things to mine about The Bad Miracle and the shoe standing up. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that can be mined there, that can be gone over and see how does that connect to the rest of the movie, and is the jean jacket a bad miracle in and of itself because of what it brings to them, but also takes away from them, and what is a bad miracle? And I like that question, and that seems like the question at the center of this movie, just like at the center of Get Out is a question of not as a race, but humans treating one another's a certain way, and whether or not our way of life now is doing more harm than good, especially some of us who think we're trying to do good. White middle-class liberals is essentially who Get Out really takes to task. Because again, the villains in Get Out are not redneck. They're not Nazis. They're not alt-righters. Right. They're white middle-class liberals. Just like in Nope, it's not an alien. It's probably a creature, or nature is stand-in for nature. Just like in Us, it's about us and who we are.
We're Americans.
And Jordan Peele does things with themes in his films that I think are transformative and that will resonate long term. I think Nope is going to be the hardest one for a lot of people to get into, because I think Nope has not multiple layers of stuff, but I think Nope is just, I think to your point, I think it came out at the wrong time. I think that it came out in a pandemic economy and a pandemic film economy where it will be reappraised down the road by more people. And I think that the Spielberg stuff will be more appraised further down the road. I think when people watch it more times, I think like anything else, this movie takes people off guard the first time they watch it, because a lot of genre melding films tend to, I mean, I notice it when I watch movies that are tonally inconsistent, which is another way of saying genre confusion. I felt that way with Us. I liked it more the second time I watched it. Nope, I may like it more the second time I watch it, or the third time. But I think to your point, Jordan Peele is a filmmaker that just, there was no one else like him, really. And I think that's maybe the biggest benefit of them all, is that he's going to be making his movies and we get to watch them.
Yeah, that's his, like I said earlier, I'm kind of befuddled as to why. I mean, obviously some executive liked his pitch for Get Out, so that's why, and maybe it's just that simple. But I just remember when that came out going, okay, I'm glad it's a horror movie and that he's a horror fan. That's always nice to hear. Not that it matters all that much, but it was like from Key and Peele, and I guess to Keanu, to this, it just seemed like a strange leap. And to have, be the writer and director of it, just was like, yeah, cool. Because now we have these 3 movies.
And, if he never made another film tomorrow, these are 3 pretty good films to hang your hat on. I don't think that's going to be the case should something, unless something horrific and unexpected happens. I'm sure Jordan Peele will be making films for a very long time, because I'm sure he has a lot to say about other genres and other ideas that we can't even fathom. Because if you had asked me when I saw Get Out if his third movie would be a alien Close Encounters of the Third Kind style film, I would have told you you're out of your mind. If you had told me that Us was going to be about doppelgangers, I probably would have said, okay, that makes sense, because still kind of on the same social lines, but Nope tackles social issues in a different way. And in some people's minds, it may not even tackle social issues at all, which maybe is the best success of the movie entirely, is that it doesn't force people to confront things that they don't want to confront. But if there are people that do want to, there's enough there for you to kind of sink your teeth into. So until we come to you talking about God knows what other movies, Begley, where can people find you? What's going on at the Wake Up Heavy podcast?
You can find me on the Weirding Way Media website, which I now belong to. You can find me at wakeupheavy.com and on Spreaker.com/wakeupheavy, I'm pretty sure, or wherever you listen to podcasts, although probably not iTunes right now if you have an ad blocker on your computer for whatever reason. This is an Apple podcast, not iTunes, but it's everywhere. Shows everywhere, set up everywhere. All that's worked out great. So wherever you listen to podcasts, find Wake Up Heavy.
Yeah, like Mark mentioned, we are now a media network. We are a podcast network. It is called Weirding Way Media, and you can find us at weirdingwaymedia.com. That's where all the shows are. These podcast shows right now, just podcasts, but you can find all those shows over there at weirdingwaymedia.com. My show, Mark's show, Mike White's show, Susan Lambert-Haddam's show, The Projection Booth, 80s TV Ladies, Wake Up Heavy. All those are the shows. They're actual names, not just the people who make them. But hey, don't forget that there are people who make content. They don't make themselves. As for me, you can find me at cstachiw.com, cstachiw.com. That's my link tree for all the shows that I personally work on. As for this show, culturecast.com, patreon.com/culturecast. Those are all the places you can go for this show. Until next time, Mark, as always, it's fun. It's a long podcast whenever we get together. My Lord. 3 hours.
Hey, 3 movies take a long time.
3 movies, 3 hours, and
too long.
And yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode.